Chapter 1044. During the bank run, Zhang Xiaobao didn't have to spend too much energy to calm his younger siblings down, but he also won the hearts of countless supporters. Xiao Bei and the others recovered very quickly. They helped others catch fish for an entire afternoon. The dozen or so children who had skipped class to catch fish had all deposited a large amount of money in the Great Tang Bank. Naturally, it was their parents who had helped them deposit the money. Their business had not started yet. It wasn't until the evening when Xiao Bei and the others left on the boat and continued to head south that the children knew the identity of Xiao Bei and the others. They all stood by the river and watched the boat disappear into the distance. They watched the sun slowly set in the west like an egg yolk and dyed the sky red. Their hearts were peaceful. Only when the person sent by the manager of the restaurant who had treated them to a meal called out to them did they reveal happy smiles. Forgetting their tiredness, they skipped towards the restaurant together. The children who caught fish were happy. Compared to being able to see Xiao Bei and the others, the amount of money in the bank was not so important. Many years later, they could proudly tell their descendants about what happened today. A portion of the crowd was also happy at noon the next day. The next day, just after noon, the branches of the Tang Bank all opened for business in the afternoon. At the same time, bundles of Tang banknotes were piled on the counter of the bank. The denominations ranged from 10 strings of coins to 500 strings of coins. The colors were colorful. When the people who wanted to withdraw money and deposit money saw it, they made a similar expression, which was shock. Then, annoyed voices and happy shouts echoed one after another in the bank. At this time, the bank also put up a public notice board. The blackboard was painted with ink, and the white chalk words were very dazzling. Little brother-in-law of the Zhang family, you can read. Help me see what's written. My son has gone to school. Otherwise, I can drag him here to read. A woman who was depositing money didn't recognize the words on the blackboard. She asked the person next to her who was going to withdraw money. She didn't show any embarrassment on her face because she didn't know how to read. Instead, she emphasized that he was her son with a hint of pride. The brother-in-law of the Zhang family knew why she was like this. It was because her son had ranked first in the school for 3 consecutive quarters. The rewards he received were enough to feed 2 people in her family. In addition to the symbolic monetary rewards, there were also cloth, rice, meat, and vegetable oil. Before the new year, she even received 4 pieces of pork. With such children, every adult should be proud of them. The children were happy when they learned, the merchants were happy when they received rewards, and the adults were even happier when they ate what the children received. However, this brother-in-law was not happy. He had already withdrawn 4 strings of cash yesterday, but he could not find today's passbook. When he got up in the morning, he scolded his wife for a while, and then rummaged through the cupboard for the whole morning before he took out the passbook from the gap of the mattress. When the Great Tang Bank opened for business in the afternoon, he rushed over. He never thought that the difference between reality and imagination was too great. That black and white announcement, as well as the colorful coins, made him want to find a hole to crawl into and return to the past. Brother-in-law of the Zhang family, what did you write? The woman continued to ask. She could see that there was something wrong with his expression, but she couldn't think of the specific reason. She could only guess that the words on the blackboard were not very good for people who wanted to withdraw money. The brother-in-law of the Zhang family tightly held the passbook in his hand. He saw that the passbook had changed shape, but he didn't know. He said to the woman blankly, I finally know the strength of the Great Tang Bank. Zhang Xiaobao will always be Zhang Xiaobao. It's a pity that I don't have any medicine for regret. It's written on it, written. The woman was a little scared. These words were too scary. It seemed that he wanted to kill himself, so she didn't say anything. However, a woman next to her who was also depositing money pulled her aside and said, Sister, I'll tell you what it says. When my daughter comes home, she always wants to teach me how to read. It's good that I can recognize those words. Sister, you tell me. The woman was more envious of her literacy. When my child comes back today, I'll also ask him to teach me. Good. I know that your son studies well. Every time my daughter talks about him, She's always envious. Someday, I'll get my daughter to help out at your place. Look at her, isn't she cute? I think your son isn't bad. Oh, let's not talk about this first. It says that the great Tang Bank announced today that all the banks have used the second-level currency reserves, a total of 100 million strings of coins. People who withdraw money don't have to rush and don't be crowded. If the 100 million strings of coins are withdrawn, there will be 200 million strings of coins released later. As long as you want to withdraw money, you don't have to worry about not being able to withdraw money. Moreover, the bank will operate until midnight. The people in the bank won't rest. Sister, look at that pile of money. There's still 500 strings of coins. Even if a merchant comes to withdraw money, there's still no need to worry. The literate woman first looked like she wanted to sell her daughter, and then she talked about the words on the blackboard. Hearing her words, the woman who asked the question revealed a smile. The great Tang Bank seems to be really rich. My husband and I were worried that they wouldn't have enough money and would collapse in the end. Now everything is fine. But why does the Zhang family's brother-in-law look unhappy? He can withdraw money now. Sister, that's because he saw another content. The great Tang Bank said that they don't lack money, but in less than 2 days, they received something more precious than money. Thus, there was a reward activity. Starting from yesterday morning until noon today, which is when the bank closes in the morning, all the people who saved money during that time will have the interest calculated at 4 times the original amount. For those who didn't withdraw their money during that period of time, the interest will be doubled from the time they deposited the money. Yesterday, I deposited 45 strings of cash. In a little more than 3 years, it will become 90 strings of cash. The literate woman became excited as she spoke. She calculated the interest and came to a conclusion. Really? Yesterday, I also saved 32 strings of coins. Today, I just saved 3 strings of coins. It's a pity that I saved too late. If I had come in the morning, I would have saved a lot more. Sister, what if I saved now? When the woman heard that the interest was 4 times the original amount, she was afraid that it was a trap. She pinched her arm with all her strength until she felt the pain. Only then did she relax. She then asked, if I save now, won't it be 4 times the original amount? It's more than 4 times the original amount. The great Tang Bank has adjusted the new interest rate. If I save now, I can only get 70% of the original amount. It's decreased by 30%. That means that the people who started to withdraw money yesterday will lose a lot. Sister, think about it. If they withdraw money, they won't spend it immediately. What's the use of keeping it? If they want to save it in the bank again, they will lose at least several times the original amount. It's not easy to calculate. In any case, it's more than 4 times the original amount. When the literate woman spoke, she looked at the younger brother-in-law of the Zhang family. There was a hint of schadenfreude in her words. The younger brother-in-law of the Zhang family turned green. He had calculated that the biggest loss from withdrawal was nearly 6 times the original amount of the depositor. If he wanted to double the amount now, it would take 20 years. What he wanted to do the most was to smash the great Tang Bank. It was too much of a bully. Saving and withdrawing money was normal. Why should he give others benefits when he withdrew money but suffer a loss? What if he withdrew money because he was in a hurry? However, a thought was a thought. He didn't dare to smash the great Tang Bank. He didn't even dare to say anything unpleasant to them. He was very clear about who was behind the great Tang Bank. I'm a fool. The great Tang Bank is managed by Zhang Xiaobao. How could he let people withdraw money from the bank? His family is so rich. I'm blinded by pork. As he thought about it, he squatted down in annoyance and pulled at his hair with all his strength. The people who also wanted to withdraw money and the people who were going through the procedures at the counter stopped when they heard this. Sir, your money is 71 strings of coins and 251 copper coins. Please count it and keep it well. A person who was handling the withdrawal business put a passbook and different amounts of money on the counter. There was also a copper coin inside and said to the stunned person, withdraw it. I won't withdraw it. Why are you so fast? I won't withdraw it. I won't withdraw it, okay? The person was even more stupid. The salesperson gently shook his head and gave the person an apologetic smile. He said, "The procedures have been completed. If you don't need too much money for the time being, you can deposit it again." "What about the interest? Is it doubled?" The person stared and asked. "Because the bank has readjusted the deposit interest rate. If you deposit it now, you can only deposit it at 70% of the original interest rate." I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I won't do it again. In the future, even if the great Tang Bank says it's going bankrupt, I won't withdraw money. Give me a chance. I saved the money last January and have been saving it for more than a year. Double the interest is equivalent to 2.5 years of saving. Tell your manager that I won't withdraw it and will still calculate it at the original interest rate. Is that okay? Even if it's a little less, I won't use double, even if it's 50%. Young lady, please help me. Who doesn't have difficulties? Help me this time, and I will definitely repay you. The person who was withdrawing money was crying. He leaned on the counter and begged the salesperson with a weak appearance. Before the salesperson could refuse again with a smile, a man next to him who wanted to deposit money and whose body was not greasy took over and shouted at the person who was leaning on the counter, refusing to leave. "Hey, you fruit pancake seller, don't you have any shame? I know you. Last time, you wanted to get a good fruit pancake tool. I wanted to borrow money to buy a pig. We came here together. The bank checked our household registration and borrowed the money together. It's interest-free. What did you say at that time? You said that you will remember this kindness and will repay it in the future. Is this how you repay it? You still have the face to say, who doesn't have difficulties? When you have difficulties, others help you. When others have difficulties, you want to make things worse for them. There is no medicine for regret in this world. Now you know how powerful Zhang Xiaobao is. Why don't you know how to cross the bridge between the Zhang family and the Wang family? It's called one thought to heaven and one thought to hell. You walked the road yourself. Who do you blame? Take the money and get lost. If you dare to be noisy again, I will slap you. I was wrong. I really won't withdraw money in the future. I was wrong. The person continued to mutter, as if he didn't hear it. The salesperson shook his head helplessly and looked at the guards next to him. Immediately, 2 guards came over and carried the person to the side to find a doctor. Next. The salesperson's voice was as pleasant as usual. The second person who wanted to withdraw money refused to move forward. He shook his head like a rattledrum. I'm not withdrawing money. I'm just looking. Yes, I went to the wrong place. What am I going to do today? There are so many things to do. Oh, I remember. I'm going to buy cloth. Yes, cloth. I won't delay your work. I'm leaving first. After he finished speaking, he turned and left. The third person didn't even say anything and followed him with his head down. In just a short time, the row of people who wanted to withdraw money disappeared. Fortunately, the door was wide enough. Otherwise, 2 people would have died. Bah! Serves them right. If it were up to me, I should have waited a little longer. I should have put out the notice tomorrow night and asked them to withdraw all the money. If they withdrew all the money, I could have saved an extra portion and added some interest. Great, now it's 70%. Come, I'll say what I have. 70% it is. If I keep it in my hands, I won't get any interest. A person standing at the deposit counter looked at the person who left, spat disdainfully, and pushed the money back. Such scenes played out in different places. While countless people of the great Tang felt the warmth and coldness of the world, they also had to ask themselves what they were thinking when they made their choice. Zhang Xiaobao didn't care about other people's thoughts at all. Anyway, he did what he should do, which was to repay injustice with justice, and to repay kindness with kindness. I'm a saint now. That's what saints do. After this incident, let's see if anyone dares to hit me when I'm in trouble next time. Zhang Xiaobao held a glass of wine and said to Wang Wan. But from his words, it seemed like he was looking for an excuse for himself. Wang Wan was still doing her embroidery. Hearing this, she raised her head and said, "Many people will be sad. What if someone takes it too hard and commits suicide? Don't you feel responsible?" "What do you mean? They shouldn't be sad, but I should be sad. I have a backup plan. What if I don't prepare? What will happen to the Tang Bank? Although it can't be closed down because of a bank run, it will make many people doubt it. The only way is to not handle the business of withdrawing money for others. Our reputation will plummet. What we lose is not only the reputation of the bank, but also the reputation of the court and our family. In the future, my words won't be as useful as they are now. Suicide? I don't believe that someone will commit suicide because of a lower interest. They don't lack capital. If someone really commits suicide because of a lower interest, then how many people do you think will die? I've heard of people committing suicide because they failed in stocks, futures, and gambling, but I've never heard of people committing suicide because of a lower interest. Besides, I don't care if someone commits suicide because of a lower interest. If the Tang Bank collapses and I commit suicide, how many people in the bank will pity me? Zhang Xiaobao looked like he was very angry. Wang Wan sighed and said nothing more. She also understood that Zhang Xiaobao was right. Many people who tried to run the bank, even if they really did cause the Tang Bank to collapse, and then found out that Zhang Xiaobao had committed suicide, they wouldn't have much of a reaction. There were even some people who rejoiced in others' misfortune. Occasionally, in their free time, they would talk to others. There had once been a person who had stood on the altar and fallen like this. That person was an existence that reigned above the ranks of the wealthiest people. This was the disregard for life, the special excitement of someone who had fallen from a high position. Thinking of this, Wang Wan felt a little sad. She and Xiao Bao had done many things for Great Tang, but in the end, when the Tang Bank was in danger, there were still many people who weren't willing to stand with them. Ignorance. No matter how much you educate them, those who should be ignorant will still be ignorant. They might have never thought about what would happen to Great Tang if the Tang Bank was gone and Zhang Xiaobao was finished. What would happen to Great Tang then? They might think that as long as they have money in their hands, they don't have to be afraid of anything. It seems that we have to teach them more about politics and economics in the future. Xiao Bao, don't you think so? Wang Wan asked Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao nodded. Indeed. At the very least, we have to let them know that money isn't useful just because they have it in their hands. Let alone paper money. Even if they have gold and silver at home, they won't have good days ahead of them if the political situation isn't stable. Right now, we've been controlling the salt tax with Li Longji, and it's very low. There hasn't been a situation where the commoners have to spend a lot of money to eat salt, and the annexation of land has also been stopped. Otherwise, even if they have 10,000 taels of gold at home, their fate is to be snatched away by others. Those fools, not only are they short-sighted, they even dare to question me. Do you think that kind of trick will work on me? All right, I know you're capable. Go do your thing and don't disturb me, Wang Wan said to Zhang Xiaobao with a smile before lowering her head and continuing to embroider her flower. But she couldn't calm down. She had realized that it was only because of her and Xiao Bao's strength that the Great Tang was able to operate normally. If the two of them were to suddenly withdraw from the situation, countless people would fight over their stalls. If that was the case, it would be better for her and Xiao Bao to withdraw from the situation and allow everything to return to the path that the Great Tang should have taken. Even if there were problems, they would be able to persist for several decades. What the two of them needed to do now was to gradually perfect the system of the Great Tang so that the people would get used to living and doing things according to the system. At that time, even if the two of them were to withdraw from the situation, the Great Tang wouldn't fall into chaos. After all, the people would already have the habit of following the system. But this system was too difficult. It wasn't that the imperial power didn't want to change, but that it couldn't be changed immediately. That required the development of production technology and productivity to reach a certain level, as well as the knowledge and culture of the people to reach a level where they had no choice but to change. The process of turning imperial power into a democracy like that of the West was extremely long. To change it in just a few decades required an enormous investment of both internal and external energy. It was simply impossible at the moment. Let's wait. Let's wait for the next generation to do it. When the time comes, we'll see which system is good and use it. Or perhaps we'll come up with a new system. Under the framework of a constitutional monarchy, we'll preserve a portion of the sovereign's power and walk the line between democracy and non-democracy. Wang Wan said a few more words. Zhang Xiaobao put down his brush and helplessly said, "Just continue embroidering your flowers. What's the point of researching this? A system is only adaptability, not absoluteness. According to the needs of different social environments, different systems are correct. We can't put the system first. What needs to be put first is the needs of society. The system can be changed, but the goal of survival can't be changed. That is to live for a better life." What do you mean by live or die? Tell us about it. We're very happy today. The situation of the various regions has been reported to us one after another. Let those disobedient commoners know that they have to work together to protect Great Tang. Yes, only then can they live properly. Right after Zhang Xiaobao said those words, Li Longji's voice sounded. At the same time, he appeared at the entrance of the cabin. Wang Wan continued to embroider with her head lowered, while Zhang Xiaobao continued to write. The two of them acted as if they didn't see Li Longji's arrival. In truth, they had already heard Li Longji's footsteps, and Zhang Xiaobao had intentionally said those words for them to hear. Seeing that the two of them didn't respond, Li Longji didn't get angry. Instead, he continued, "Xiaobao, after the interest on deposits is adjusted, do you think that the interest on loans should be adjusted as well? Should it be adjusted back in the future?" Why is it this kind of question again? Zhang Xiaobao raised his head and sighed. If we aren't concerned about this question, what should we be concerned about? Are you going to adjust it or not? Give me an answer. Li Longji glared at him. Adjust it? Since the interest on deposits is lowered, the interest on loans should naturally be lowered as well. If we don't adjust it, wouldn't those who want loans run to the commoners to borrow money? This will cause an abnormal concentration of capital. In truth, I was originally thinking of lowering the interest rate, but I was waiting for a suitable opportunity. It just so happened that Xiao Bei and the others were reporting to the manager of the bank, so I did it together. Otherwise, why didn't you start a propaganda war with others? Why didn't you stop Xiao Bei and the others? This time, you've gained an advantage. You've won a portion of the people's hearts, warned a portion of the people, and strengthened the position of the great Tang Bank in the hearts of the commoners. At the same time, you've also completed your plan to lower the interest rate. Say, what do you want us to say about you? You even want to make use of Xiao Bei and the others. You're truly too unqualified as an elder brother. Li Longji first praised Zhang Xiaobao, and then he began to criticize him. Zhang Xiaobao didn't care. It was Xiao Bei and the others who helped us. If not for this matter, I wouldn't have known the general situation of the people. It seems that we don't need to worry about the internal strife of the Great Tang when we launch an invasion in the future. By lowering the interest rate, we can accomplish two things. The first is to promote consumption. When the commoners realize that the interest rate is lower, they'll be willing to take out their money to buy things. However, we have to control the prices of goods properly. It's easy for the price of some goods to rise too much in a short period of time. The second goal is to have those who want to borrow more when the interest rate of the bank is lowered. Then, they can use the money to develop their own industries. Starting from a small scale, they can research production techniques and improve management, thus raising production efficiency and creating more material resources. But at the same time, they have to be controlled. They can't develop their industries by encroaching on other people's land, and they can't develop their industries by exploiting the natural resources of the Great Tang. The best result is for them to follow in the footsteps of the Great Tang army and plunder outside to produce locally before transporting back to our Great Tang for the commoners to use. Li Longji nodded and said, "Give it to a portion of the Great Tang commoners to use." We shouldn't care about those who run on the banks. Zhang Xiaobao was amused by Li Longji's words, and Wang Wan didn't dare to continue embroidering for fear of prickling her hands. After stopping, Wang Wan said to Li Longji, "Your Majesty, you're the emperor. You can't argue with the commoners. If the commoners aren't good, then it means that you haven't been fooled enough. You haven't educated the commoners well. So how can you push the blame onto the commoners?" That's right. The commoners are adorable. The appearance of the bank only means that we haven't done our job well. I believe that if we don't change the way we treat the commoners and work hard for them, there will come a day when the commoners of our great Tang are faced with this matter once more. When someone withdrew money, it wasn't for the sake of running on the banks, but because they happened to be in need of money. When someone saved money, it wasn't to protect the great Tang Bank, but because they felt that keeping the money in their hands would cause it to depreciate. Zhang Xiaobao echoed. So it's our fault then? How long will it take for them to reach the level the two of you speak of? Li Longji faintly said. He felt extremely uncomfortable in his heart. He felt like he had been betrayed by many people, and it was an indescribable feeling. It won't take too long. There might be a run on the banks right now, but if someone says that they want the commoners of a certain area to rebel, there won't be any commoners who will follow them. As long as we maintain our governance, ensure the development of productivity, speed up the education of knowledge, and consolidate Great Tang's military and economic superiority, we'll be able to achieve our goal in 10 years at most. Of course, we can't expect to have every single commoner listen to us, but at that time, there will be very few who don't listen, and we can just deal with those who don't listen. Even if we can't do the favor, we still have the law and punishment. With both of these, society will be stable. Why isn't the data out yet? You're making me wait. As Zhang Xiaobao consoled Li Longji, he occasionally glanced at the door. What data are you waiting for? Li Longji also turned his head to look at the door and asked. The data of the bank. We can't let something like this happen for nothing. I have to see what's special about the situation. I'm coming. Zhang Xiaobao paused. As expected, 5 breaths later, someone from the inner court appeared at the door. He looked inside before walking in and saying to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, "Little young master, little miss, the data has just been compiled, and it's not too complete. There's still a portion that will have to be compiled at night. Please take a look. There's no need to rush. Tell me, what's the situation?" Zhang Xiaobao gestured for the person from the inner court to explain. Yes. After the Great Tang Bank ran on its banks, from yesterday morning to noon, various places paid out a total of 43.2 million strings of cash. At the same time, more than 36.1 million strings of cash were deposited, so there wasn't much of an impact. The expenditure of various places varies according to the degree of prosperity, which is basically consistent with the law. The only problem is the Jiangnan West Road. From yesterday morning to noon today, the entire Jiangnan West Road unconventionally paid out 7 million strings of cash, and there were people from other places transferring money to the bank there. They're probably trying to empty the Jiangnan West Road Bank of cash. Our bank system has just responded, urgently transferring cash from the nearby banks to the Jiangnan West Road Bank. The transportation team has already set off under layers of protection. The inner court explained. Chapter 1045. Idiot. Li Longji commented after Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan finished speaking. At the same time, he looked at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, hoping that they would agree with his judgment. Unexpectedly, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan frowned at the same time. They looked at each other and nodded at the same time. It's interesting to deal with such an opponent, Zhang Xiaobao commented. Wang Wan also said, "What should we do to create a diversion?" "We'll beat them at their own game and lure the snake out of its hole," Zhang Xiaobao replied. Could it be that someone is stupid? Li Longji understood the meaning behind their words and asked with uncertainty. If they're not stupid, maybe we can turn the act into reality. Investigate the owners of the transfer accounts and deposit accounts. Compile the information on the large deposit accounts in the past 6 months. Send the guards to the west of Jiangnan to enter a state of combat readiness. Increase the activity of the spy system. The Ministry of Works and the Agricultural Temple Research Institute will increase the defense forces and hold a recruitment competition in early summer. The time will be set to be half a month later. In addition, speed up the construction of the railway and recruit new medical students. The current students will immediately undergo the basic medical examination. Those who pass will be sent to the nearest place, and those who pass will be sent to the surrounding area in turn. We'll rotate layer by layer to increase the number of medical personnel in Tang as fast as possible. Zhang Xiaobao replied to Li Longji and issued a series of orders to the inner court. After that, he turned to look at Wang Wan. Wang Wan nodded lightly and then said, "Order. Our troops stationed in Shanshan City in the east of Qinghai Lake will split up and go around Qinghai Lake. We'll move to the northwest at the same time. We'll practice to adapt to the environment and cooperate with guns and cannons along the way. Continue to increase the supply of meat and wheaten food in the name of rescuing the Tubo disaster. When we reach Pengzhou Pass, recruit the local people to secretly make military food. We'll conscript the surplus ships of the merchants in Jiannan province. Fill them with fodder and enter the Ruoshui River of Jinchuan. We'll go against the current north and stop at Mizang. Our Yellow River fleet will head west and gather at the Bailan tribe downstream of the source of the Yellow River. Don't travel empty-handed. Also, send some things to the tribes along the way. Choose what they don't produce locally. We don't need seafood. There's a saltwater lake there, so we can send tea leaves. Also, we can hire locals to go to Qinghai Lake to help make Huanyu products." The people in the inner courtyard took note of it seriously. When they turned and walked to the door of the cabin, Zhang Xiaobao added, "Tell Xiaobei and the others that they will only stay in Hangzhou for 2 days at most. No matter who they meet, as long as they are friendly with them, invite them to Jiangzhou. If they follow, bring them along. If they refuse, arrest them." Yes. The inner yard disciple left. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan immediately lowered their heads and continued to write. After each finished writing a page, they didn't look at each other. They each called for their respective inner courtyards, solemnly handed the pages to each other, and waved their hands to let them leave. Li Longji listened and watched from the side. When Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were done with their work, he looked at them with a puzzled expression. Finally, he couldn't help but ask, "What exactly do you two want to do? The Ministry of Works, the Agricultural Temple, the Medical College, the Army, and supplies. Do you want to act in advance?" Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan shook their heads and said at the same time, "Let's make the Tang Empire busy." "What's the benefit of being busy?" Li Longji asked again. "Cooperate with the other party," Wang Wan answered. "Find someone to play a game," Zhang Xiaobao answered. Li Longji was confused. He thought about it and asked, "Can you bring me along to play?" "Well, okay. Every 2 days, send a group of people to the government offices in various places of the Tang Empire to patrol. Send 7 groups in a row. Then order the local troops to strictly check the people entering and leaving. That's enough." Zhang Xiaobao pretended to be hesitant, but in the end, he nodded and agreed. "What's the purpose of doing this?" Li Longji admitted that he didn't understand. "To play together." Zhang Xiaobao went back to the original topic. "Okay, like a guessing game or throwing a handkerchief behind me. Don't tell me that the two of you..." As Li Longji spoke, he pointed at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Then he got up and left to arrange things. Xiaobei and the others, who were getting closer and closer to Hangzhou, had been living a good life recently. They could listen to Grandpa Fish's stories and listen to the things that happened to Grandpa Fish when he was young. There were the roads he walked on, the rivers he crossed, the local customs, deceit, climbing mountains was like picking stars, and people's lives were like grass. They could also learn calligraphy and painting from the Jiangwang clan. They could also learn how to play the zither and play chess. They could play the pluck strings and play the 3 plum blossoms. After they finished learning, the 9 of them would teach each other and make up stories for Pan and her brother. The rest of the time, they would exercise and think about what was delicious. If they saw a place along the coast that was damaged, they would send a report to the nearest family business and ask them to pay for the repair. The local government would guide them, and they would report back. Grandpa Fish, is the grassland really that dangerous? My family has a business on the grassland. I even flew back from the north. I didn't see any wolves, nor did I see any snakes that would kill people with a bite. At noon, Xiao Bei and the others had just eaten. They walked back and forth on the deck of the ship, digesting the food while listening to Old Man Wang, who was also walking around, tell stories. When Old Man Wang talked about the grassland, Xiao Bei couldn't connect the grassland he saw with what Grandpa Fish said. Xiao Bei felt that Grandpa Fish should be talking about the stories and not the real things that happened to Grandpa Fish when he was young. So he looked up and asked. Old Man Wang held Xiao Bei's hand. The wrinkles on his face were piled together, but there was a smile on his face. His other hand was holding Xiao Yuan. He really wanted to hold Xiao Hai's hand. Xiao Hai was Qiao Er's biological son, but he knew he couldn't do that. He could imagine that if he held Xiao Bei's hand with one hand and Xiao Hai's hand with the other, the two children would give up at the same time and stay far away from him, thinking that there was a difference between them. Yes, Xiao Bei and Xiao Hai would definitely think that way. They were much smarter than other children. Hearing Xiao Bei's question, Old Man Wang continued to smile and said to Xiao Bei, when you left, you were in a large group. The wolves had already run away when they saw you. The snakes were also killed by people who were familiar with the grassland and became your food. We didn't have the same treatment as you back then. In a caravan, the big ones had a few hundred people, and the small ones only had a dozen or so people. They wore thick clothes, regardless of whether it was winter or summer. What they were most afraid of was encountering a pack of more than 30 wolves. When a caravan of more than a dozen people saw a big pack of wolves, they would first guard their horses, light a fire, and take out their weapons to be on guard at all times. It was better during the day, but at night it was very likely that the caravan would not see the sun tomorrow. It was difficult to find traces of people who died on the grassland. When the wind blew and the grass grew, the grassland was still grassland, but there was no sign of people. I only encountered it once. That time, as Old Man Wang told the story, or rather, the things that he had experienced, a look of reminiscence appeared in his eyes. Xiao Bei and the others listened attentively, interrupting from time to ask a question. From the looks of it, the waves are the most powerful on the grassland. Xiao Bei concluded after listening to the story of the grassland. Xiao Yuan pursed her lips and said, on the grasslands, humans are the most powerful. Didn't Big Brother and Big Sister say that there will be a day when humans will regret killing too many animals? It's not that they regret not having enough to eat or wear comfortable clothes because they don't have enough of those animals. It's that when an animal is gone, the children in the future will never see it again. Perhaps it's nothing to some people, but many years later, will people still guess the animals of today, like digging up the stones, called dinosaurs? Okay, I admit that you're right. For the sake of younger children, we shouldn't kill all the animals. We should catch and raise them, just like the zoo in the capital. In fact, I really want to bring all the animals from everywhere to the capital. That way, it will be very lively. Xiao Bei looked at Pan, Air, and the other two, and finally stopped arguing with Xiao Yuan. His eyes looked at the clouds floating in the sky as he slowly spoke, his eyes filled with yearning. Old Man Wang felt that his thinking could not keep up with the children. When he heard what Xiao Bei and Xiao Yuan said, he asked puzzledly, the animals of a place naturally have the habits of a place. If you bring them to the capital, will they still be able to live? Grandpa you haven't been to the zoo in the capital? Oh, that's right. When we go back, we'll take you with us and let you see what the zoo in the capital is like. We can enter all the places. As long as Uncle Emperor can enter, no one will dare to stop us. The things that have just arrived are usually not allowed to be seen by others, even if they spend more money. Before we came out, my elder brother and elder sister had people get a big white bear from a very cold place. Swimming is very fun. I've seen it before. I don't think I can gain any advantage from swimming with it. It's so big, and its swimming speed is so fast. Don't you think it's amazing? In order to keep them alive, we put ice on the places where they live. It's easy to do in the winter, but when it's summer, who knows how much ice money we have to spend every day. Also, they eat fish. Other than them, there are also small bears from very hot places. Then, we have to heat them up and specially get them food. Otherwise, they won't eat. They're even more picky than me. Let me tell you, the more Bebe talked, the happier he became. He let go of Old Man Wang's hand and kept gesturing. Pan could occasionally understand a sentence or two, so she was busy learning from Bebe. Old Man Wang had indeed not seen it with his own eyes. In fact, if he went to the capital, he could also see new animals that ordinary people could not see. However, he had not been to the capital in the past 1 or 2 years. He was busy elsewhere. During the New Year, he came back to the house in Hangzhou with his master. First, there were many merchants in Hangzhou, and they could eat the food they got from overseas at any time. Second, Hangzhou was far from the capital. His master always had things in his heart that he couldn't let go. Sometimes he didn't dare to face them. Although he still had an official position in another department, he didn't like to go there personally to do things, so he left them to the people in the departments. Old Man Wang had also heard about the animals in the zoo from others. At that time, he already had a very good impression of them. Today, when he heard Bebe talk about them, he realized that those who saw the animals did not describe them very well. They missed a lot of things. For example, the habits of the animals, and how they looked when they ate, etc. Bebe, why are you different from what others said? Old Man Wang asked curiously. Different? No, that's what my brother and sister told us. They also divided the animals into different families. Some animals look different from the outside, but my brother and sister put them in the same category. Grandpa fishing, it won't take long for my brother and sister to arrive in Hangzhou. You'll know when you see them. They're so awesome. No matter what kind of things people catch from where, they can directly tell the general living habits of those things. For example, they sent a kind of small bear from the very south. Like what I just told you, my brother and sister call them koalas. They say that this kind of animal is the most fun to play with. If they don't have enough food and temperature, they can train them and other people can hold them. If there are 10 of them and 9 of them are held by people, but one of them is not, that koala will be very sad. Don't you think it's like a human? Bebe made a gesture of holding a big cloth doll as he spoke to Old Man Wang. Pan rushed over and opened her arms to let Bebe hold her. When Bebe was done, she would find someone else to hold her. Such an action made Old Man Wang chuckle. While he was laughing, suddenly, a shout came from the observation deck. Someone fell into the water. Where? Binoculars. When Bebe heard that someone had fallen into the water, he quickly asked the people next to him for binoculars. The thing he didn't want to see the most was someone drowning, because he was good at swimming. He took the binoculars and looked at the river. Bebe showed a puzzled expression. He pulled Xiao Yuan and held the binoculars in front of him and asked, Xiao Yuan, have you seen a drowning person like this before? Xiao Yuan looked and was also very puzzled. He shook his head and said, No, that person's rise and fall is too regular. Could it be that he is practicing drowning? I haven't practiced it before, but I heard from my brother and sister that in the future, when the medical conditions are improved, there will be a special Navy. It is the Navy's drowning training program, learning how to drown under what conditions. That way, the survival rate after being saved will be much higher than the people who are not familiar with it. But I am afraid when I think about it. I don't have the courage to take the initiative to drown. Bebe pulled the binoculars back to her eyes and nodded. She said, Yes, this person is too interesting. Look at the shape of his mouth when he is shouting. It's clearly the word help, but why does his hand move downwards when he is shouting for help? After shouting, he immediately pushes up. It's tiring to shout for help at the same time. When we have time, let's try going into the water and see how long we can last. This is physical work. He has a good physique. When Old Man Wang heard the people on the observation deck shout that someone had fallen into the water, he became nervous. After interacting with Xiao Bei and the others for a long time, he realized that he had already reached a level where he could ignore life. But Xiao Bei and the others had changed his mind, especially when Xiao Bei saved the earless child. That kind of serious respect and protection of life made her feel deeply moved. Therefore, when he heard that someone had fallen into the water, he wondered if Bei Bei was going to jump in to save him again. In the end, he saw Bei Bei and Xiao Yuan's indifferent attitude. After listening to their conversation, he finally understood what they meant. Hence, he took a pair of binoculars and looked over. After watching for more than 10 seconds, Old Man Wang had to admit that Bei Bei and Xiao Yuan's observation was very detailed. That person was really like what the two children said. His ups and downs were too regular. Furthermore, when he was shouting for help, his mouth was wide open. After such a long time, he still did not sink. Hence, he asked Bei Bei and Xiao Yuan, "What do you think he is doing? Is there a need to ask? Waiting for me to save him. Do you think I'm stupid? I'm good at swimming, but what if he has a water-splitting thorn? It will be very dangerous if I get too close to him. Let's stop the boat and see how long he can shout for." Bei Bei was very smart at this moment and said disdainfully. Xiao Yuan also said, "Why don't we get someone to throw a few stones over? Whoever is stronger can try and see if they can hit the target. It's fine if they're not accurate. Find a few more people and throw it a few more times. It's bound to hit him. When he's really drowning, we'll get someone to save him." Xiao Hai, who had been silent all this time, said at this time, "Send someone to save him. See what he says when he comes back. We will wait on the boat and be careful. Let the people who are going to save him search him while they are saving him." "Oh, that's fine too. He can't have appeared on our way by accident. Didn't brother and sister already send us a message? They said that if we meet people who are deliberately trying to get close to us, we should think of a way to bring them along to Jiang District. I thought that people would only appear after we arrived in Hangzhou, but I didn't expect to meet them now. Brother and sister are so awesome. How did they know that someone would appear? This is so fun." Bei Bei was not angry. Instead, she seemed very excited. The person below was still trying to drown. At this time, someone on the boat began to lower the boat and then paddled it closer to the person. He did not jump into the water directly like before to save the person. Who knew if that person was preparing in the water with the idea of killing one person to break even and killing two to make a profit? Geezer Wang's eyes never moved away from the person who had fallen into the water. He wanted to see if he knew this person. If he knew him, it meant that the person had come for him or something related to his family. If he did not know him, it was not easy to guess. He hoped that the person had come for him. Otherwise, on the way to Hangzhou, there would be many dangerous things that targeted Bei Bei and the other children. Just like that, Old Man Wang watched as the two rescue boats rowed to the man's side. He watched the man's actions. Bei Bei and the others were also watching. When they saw that the person was pulled to the boat weakly and immediately cowed out, Bei Bei shook her head again and said, "It's too fake. If he is really drowning, he shouldn't be kowtowing now. He should be vomiting or coughing hard. His eyes should be red, and his nose should also be flowing out." Xiao Yuan laughed and said, "In a while, we will pretend that he is drowning. Let's see what he wants to do." While the two of them were talking, the person had been helped up. He looked at the sky as if he had just survived a disaster. This appearance gained the approval of Bei Bei and the others. After a while, the two boats carrying the person were pulled up to the deck of the big boat. The person was also helped up to the top by others. When he saw Bei Bei, the person did something that made Bei Bei and the others puzzled. He actually raised his head and laughed. It was impossible to tell that he was drowning. Chapter 1046. Xiao Bei and the others were stunned by this person's laughter. They looked at each other and tried hard to recall the story that their brother and sister had told them. Finally, Xiao Bei thought of something and asked, Did you say that you were very satisfied that we were able to save you? Yes. This person nodded and shook his head in a very natural and unrestrained manner. His hair that had become messy in the water earlier splashed water all over Xiao Bei and the others' faces. This was because he was a little far away. The two people next to him were even hit in the face by his wet hair. These two people glared at him but did not say anything. Others did not say anything, but he said, "Not bad, you are indeed good servants. Even if you encounter something that makes you uncomfortable, you can still endure silently. Good. Also, I am very satisfied with you children. After seeing me, you are able to remain calm. Furthermore, you were able to guess what I was thinking when I laughed out loud. As such, I did not wait for you for a few days in vain, nor did I waste the time soaking in the water for so long." As this person spoke, he reached out and moved his hair to the front. He grabbed it and stroked it from top to bottom. The water formed a small stream and splashed onto the deck. Xiao Bei pouted. If it were not for her status, she would have gotten someone to kick this person down. What was this? She had seen arrogant and shameless people, but she had never seen such a person. Xiao Bei sulked and did not speak. Old man Wang was not willing. This was the precious child of the family. Although they were relatives, Xiao Bei's status was different. Even if they were just a little bit relatives, they had to treat her seriously. He coldly snorted and asked this person, "Who are you? Why did you lie to us to save you? Why don't you tell us the truth?" When this person heard the voice, he arrogantly turned his head to look at Old Man Wang. The corner of his mouth twitched, and he turned his head back. He said to Xiao Bei, "How can you have such an insensible servant in your house? What are you yelling for? If you talk to me like that again, I will get someone to kick you down. It is not up to you to say what my family does. I am asking you a question, so answer quickly. Do you think you are very smart? You know how to pretend to be drowning, so that we can save you? Have you heard the story of the boy who cried wolf? There was a child who liked to lie to others. Then he cried wolf. This way, others would have to save him." Xiao Bei finally could not hold back. She stared at this person and told him the story of the boy who cried wolf. When she finished, Xiao Yuan continued, "You are the child who lied. Before you do anything, you never consider the feelings of others. I will give you one last chance. Speak." This person was stunned by Xiao Bei's story and Xiao Yuan's words. After a while, he regained his composure. His eyes turned, and he suddenly smiled again. He praised, "Not bad, you're right. I didn't waste my efforts. I finally found someone who can inherit my legacy. Let me introduce myself. My surname is Hu, and my name is Liang. My ancestral home is in the Shannon East Road. I lost all my family when I was young. I could only think of ways to survive. I suffered a lot, but I also learned many skills. I can go up the mountain to fight tigers, and I can also go down the sea to catch dragons. I am a very big fish. Did you see me in the water just now? Do you think that I am very unusual? I am also familiar with all kinds of books, and I am proficient in zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. I know the way of metaphysics and the power of the stars. Unfortunately, for many years, I have been trying to find someone who I can pass on my skills to. I have long heard that you are extraordinarily intelligent, so I want to meet you. Why don't you quickly become my disciple? What are you waiting for?" In the process of introducing himself as Hu Liang, he raised his head again, looking very capable. Xiao Bei sighed and did not say anything. He turned around and left. The others also walked towards the cabin. They were already speechless by this person. He was so good at bragging. If they did not have brothers and sisters, perhaps they would be a little curious when they saw such a person, and then let him perform. However, in the stories of the brothers and sisters, it was said that there was no need to pay attention to such people. They were either mentally ill or big liars. There was no need to give them any chance to perform. It was not worth it to waste their time. Don't go. Let me finish. If you don't believe me, you can test me. See if I have many skills. If there is anything wrong, You don't need to chase me away. I will jump off the boat myself. Hu Liang was anxious. As he spoke, he wanted to chase after Xiao Bei's group, but the people beside him grabbed his arm and could not break free. Don't grab me. Let me tell you, if your master loses a chance to accept a talent because of you grabbing me, you will not be able to afford it. Hu Liang tried a few times, but in the end, he was not as strong as the protection team. After helplessly giving up, he angrily said to the people around him. The people standing in front of him and blocking the way laughed disdainfully and said, "Accept a talent? Do you think this is the spring and autumn period? Do you think others will value you just because you're crazy and act like you're capable? Let me tell you, our family lacks everything, but we don't lack people like you. The little things you know are nothing in our eyes. Hurry up and leave. Don't wait for us to get you off. Do you see the platform in front? Go there and jump down from the top. You won't fall on the deck below. Go, go." As the guard spoke, he followed the two people who were holding Hu Liang and pushed him towards the platform, letting Hu Liang struggle. Seeing that he was about to reach the platform, Hu Liang finally did not insist on his arrogant appearance. Instead, he cried and begged, Don't take me away. To be honest, I haven't eaten a full meal for 2 days. I don't have a single cent on me now. In the past few months, I've been looking for a job in countless places, but all of them look down on me like dogs. In the end, I often only get to eat 1 meal a day, and that's because people are kind enough to give it to me. From yesterday until now, I have only eaten half a steamed bun, and there is hair on it. I don't know what I ate wrong, but my stomach hurts. In desperation, I came here to wait for your ship so that I can ask your doctor to take a look at me. Otherwise, I will die sob. In the end, this person was already choking with sobs, which annoyed the 3 guards. However, the 3 guards still sent Hu Liang toward the platform. At this moment, a servant girl came out of the cabin and shouted, "Wait, my mistress said that she is very heavy now, so she wants to accumulate good karma for the child. Fine, no matter if he is really capable or just a liar, it is not easy. Let him stay on the ship for the time being." After speaking to the 3 guards, the servant girl said to Hu Liang, "My mistress is kind. Remember, you can stay on the ship, but you are not allowed to wander around. If your stomach is not feeling well, you can ask the doctor to treat you and get medicine. You have to eat whatever is given to you during meals. You can't ask about things casually, and you can't talk too much when others are talking. Otherwise, you will be pushed down, humph." Thank you. I don't dare. I will listen to your mistress's arrangements. I wonder if there is anything to fill my stomach now? I am really too hungry." Hu Liang thanked and promised. He grinned and asked the servant girl for something to eat. "Wait, in a while, let someone accompany you to wash up and then change your clothes. When the time comes, there will naturally be food sent to you. Also, didn't you say that you can read? Write down everything about yourself. It doesn't matter if you can't think of it now, slowly recall. Especially the things that happened in the past few months. If we find out that you are lying, then it won't be as simple as pushing you down. We will arrange a cabin for you, and you can only stay there. You are not allowed to come out without being called. Do you remember?" The servant girl asked one by one and looked at Hu Liang, waiting for his answer. Yes, I remember all of them. I won't forget a single one. Thank you. I will definitely repay you well." Hu Liang nodded and promised again. The servant girl waved her hand, turned around, and walked away with light steps. The 3 guards looked at Hu Liang. The empty-handed one said slowly, "Since the mistress found you pitiful and let you stay on the ship for the time being, you can stay for a few days. Don't let us see you play tricks. Let's go, we will arrange it for you." The other 2 people still grabbed Hu Liang's arms, one on the left and one on the right, and walked toward the cabin. Xiao Bei and the others did not stay idle. They immediately told their brother about this matter. The reason they let the person who called himself Hu Liang stay was because of the news from their brother and sister. Since he was already here, it was better to keep him by their side and observe him. No matter how powerful the other party was, He would not be able to play any tricks under their watch. When Zhang Xiaobao received the news, he, Wang Wan, and Li Longji were looking at the new thing. It was a lifting device that was driven by an electric motor. The previous device used pulleys, but it required manpower. Just last night, the technicians who traveled with the fleet had perfected the design and manufacturing of the electric lift through experiments. They were going to follow Lu Zhou to design the railway. It just so happened that they had nothing else to do during the journey. Apart from asking Wang Wan for advice, when they encountered something they did not understand, most of the time, they were busy with their own design ideas, trying to turn their theories into reality. The principle of the lift was very simple. When it was energized, it would rotate, and it would drive the capstan to wind the steel wire. Then, there would be another button. This button was a gear that worked in the opposite direction and controlled the gear change. This thing itself wasn't too difficult. The difficult part was the precision of the meshing of the gears. What he was making now was a simple elevator. In the future, it would be used on a steam engine ship to allow the ship to easily move forward and backward, and also control the speed. In this way, when the ships turned or when they were in formation, it would be of great help and increase the turning speed. Li Longji was looking at the new lift that lifted a small boat up and down. No matter how he thought about it, he felt it was a very simple thing. He was just about to ask Zhang Xiaobao why he spent so much effort to make this thing when he received news from Xiaobei. Quick, Xiaobei's news is here. Let me have a look. When Li Longji heard the news from the people in the inner court, he was even more enthusiastic than Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. As he spoke, he snatched the piece of information from Xiaobei. He glanced at it before he raised his hand and showed Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan a thumbs up. He said, "Amazing. You two really guessed it. What do you think is going on over there?" "Someone went to look for my mother?" Zhang Xiaobao played along and asked. "Yes, that's right. It's a crazy person. Tell me, who do you think this person is? What's his purpose?" Li Longji asked as he waved the piece of paper in his hand. Zhang Xiaobao raised his hand and gestured for Li Longji to take the piece of information. He said, "Xiaobei and the others are still 2 days away from Hangzhou. I originally thought that they would arrange for someone to wait in Hangzhou. I didn't expect that they would arrange for someone to wait there. Very good." After taking the piece of information and reading it, Zhang Xiaobao raised the corners of his mouth. He said to Wang Wan, who had also read the piece of information, "This person is not ordinary. He actually knows a bit about psychology. Unfortunately, he chose the wrong person." Wang Wan also smiled and said, "That's right. He used a series of actions to make others lower their guard against him and think of him as a clumsy opponent. In fact, he knew very well that if he stopped the boat and waited for help in the water, he would definitely be exposed. He used those very fake actions to judge Xiaobei and the others' perception of him. From there, he guessed to what extent Xiaobei and the others were guarding against him. When he got on the boat, he took the initiative to say that he was faking it. His purpose was to observe the reactions of Xiaobei and the others in our inner courtyard, so that he could use the most appropriate identity to deal with them. In the end, he described himself as very pitiful in order to further test the extent to which Xiaobei and the others understood his identity. This kind of trick was useful for others, but it was useless against our inner courtyard. No matter what he did, the inner courtyard would not lower their guard against him. If he wanted to pass the information to his accomplices, then there was only one way. When he came over, he had already told his accomplices that if he didn't come down from the boat, it meant that we were guarding against him. He would wait on the boat for an opportunity and tell his accomplices not to contact him again. Li Longji was listening to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan talk on the side. He was very surprised. He didn't expect that such a simple matter would be so complicated by the two of them. Thus he asked, "If that's the case, what's the use of him staying on the boat? Won't he still be able to pass the information back if he's chased off? Doesn't he know how tight the defenses of the Zhang family and Wang family are? He can't possibly think that he has the ability to successfully make a move against Xiaobei and your mother under layers of surveillance and protection, right? Gao Lisher, who had followed them to look at the lift, couldn't figure out what Hu Liang was thinking. If he put himself in a dangerous situation and didn't do anything, wouldn't he be a fool? Then he said, when he gets on Xiaobei's boat, he will definitely change into someone else's clothes and then take a bath. He won't be able to carry anything on him. Even if he wants to poison him, he won't be able to find an opportunity. Sigh. This kind of opponent isn't difficult to deal with. Wang Wan didn't say anything and signaled for Zhang Xiaobao to explain. Zhang Xiaobao pondered for a moment and explained, actually, there are other ways to carry things. For example, if you want to put something in your mouth, you can also use a kind of glue to make a bag. You can put poison in it and eat one end into your stomach, leaving a string on the other end. Then tie it to your teeth. When you want to use it, you can just spit it out from your stomach. However, I'm sure that Hu Liang won't do such a thing. The inspection at my house won't miss this. We'll check his entire body from head to toe, inside and out, even the area behind his butt. Even if he has a scar on his body, we'll check it carefully to see if he cut his skin and stuffed something inside. When it's healed, he can use it at a critical moment. Then he should have a motive. Li Longji voiced out the doubt in his heart. He has a few motives. First, he wants to alert the enemy and put us in a tense situation at all times to see how we react. Second, he wants us to put more of our attention on the assassination of Xiaobei and my mother, thus neglecting other aspects. Third, he wants them to adjust their strategy. Some plans should be changed. For example, when they were waiting for our ship to reach Hangzhou, they disguised themselves as dock workers, or even were dock workers themselves. We told them that they couldn't make a move and that our defense was too tight. Finally, he thinks that no matter what we do to him, no matter how we pretend to be on guard against him, and no matter how we change our habits, he can get useful information from it. These are all the reasons I can think of. He even thinks that he alone will restrain the energy of many of us. This is also a waste of manpower, haha. Zhang Xiaobao guessed and said a few motives, then smiled indifferently. Li Longji and Gao Lisher suddenly understood, and at the same time, their expressions became solemn. They thought that if the opponent casually sent a person, and he was so powerful, then how powerful was the person hiding in the dark? They wondered what the result would be this time. The main thing was that Great Tang would lose a lot of things, including lives and money. Li Longji sighed and said, if it weren't for the news from there today, I would have thought that the Jiangnan West Road incident was more of a coincidence, and that someone was really going to make a big move. However, through this Hu Liang, Xiaobao, you and Cuckoo have guessed correctly. There is a power behind this. Don't you think that Great Tang will suffer a great loss? Wang Wan continued and comforted. Your Majesty, don't worry. There won't be a big problem. They don't want to harm ordinary people just like us. They won't go to other countries just to poison people. It's meaningless. In that case, even if they choose a small river and throw a large amount of poison into a shallow well, or buy pigs and put the poison into the pork, these methods won't have much effect. Even if they opened a restaurant and poisoned the people who ate there, it would only be a small portion of the population. It was far too small compared to the people of the Great Tang. Their main goal is to disrupt Great Tang and make the people lose confidence in Great Tang. They want to pull me and Zhang Xiaobao down from the altar. They haven't made a big move yet, and they are still probing. That's why Xiaobao and I arranged that series of things to confuse them. So that's the case. Right, that's how it should be. Their goal is to get rid of the two of you. Right now, almost everyone knows how important the two of you are to Great Tang. If the two of you were to lose your standing in the eyes of the people, the impact on Great Tang would be unimaginable. That's why they schemed so hard to deal with the two of you. However, Xiaobei arrived at the right time. This emperor guesses that they haven't finished setting the trap yet. In order to deal with the manager of the Great Tang Bank, Xiaobei and the others wanted the manager to take them seriously, so they started a rumor. As Li Longji spoke, he began to think about many things. He realized that this matter was truly very interesting. Most likely, the people hiding in the shadows didn't want to act so early and hadn't finished setting the trap yet. However, Xiao Bei and the others had released the rumor. If they didn't act now and waited for the rumor to pass, they wouldn't have enough strength to make a move. In the end, once they acted, not only did they fail to threaten or harm the status of the great Tang Bank, Zhang Xiaobao, and Wang Wan, they even helped the two of them consolidate their positions. This could be said to be a miscalculation. What made the other side even more uncomfortable was that so many people had gone to save money and wanted to make a move against a country as large as a family. The most worrying thing was the lack of unity. Just like the wolf pack, their individual strength wasn't so strong that they were invincible. But wolves were more dangerous than tigers. They were even more dangerous than ordinary armies. An army would collapse before the main commander died. It was too difficult to make a wolf pack collapse before the leader died. Gao Lishir was the happiest about this. He chuckled and said, "The eyes of the common people are bright." Yes, Xiao Bei and the others often say this. They know who the great Tang can't do without. Naturally, His Majesty is the most important. However, the common people also know that His Majesty isn't a big problem. What he is most worried about is the Great Tang Bank. Thus, when they were saving money, they said that the Great Tang Bank can't fall, and neither can the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families. Because the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families have fallen, His Majesty will stand at the forefront. There will be no one in front of him to block all kinds of things. Xiaobao, you should think about it carefully. It's best if you make the other side suffer so much that they can't even take back their money. I've thought about it, but I need to know who the other side is first. Let's send a plan to Xiao Bei and the others. Let them leak as many secrets as possible and let Hu Liang know. Zhang Xiaobao's expression was relaxed. It wasn't that he wasn't worried, but that he had long been used to facing all kinds of pressure and difficulties. If there really wasn't any difficulty, he wouldn't be able to display his abilities. Let him know? Li Longji was puzzled. Yes, let him know a bit more. He actually didn't come here to hurt anyone, because he knows that he can't hurt anyone. The only person he can hurt is himself. He will definitely be very obedient on the ship. He will be so obedient that he will do whatever others want him to do. He will be so obedient that he won't ask, say, look, or hesitate. Wouldn't that be letting him off too easily? If he knows a bit more, he will be anxious and want to spread the news, even if he has to sacrifice himself. But what we need to do is let him hear a lot of secrets, but not let him spread them, and even more so not let him die. He has bad intentions, so how can I let him have an easy time? Zhang Xiaobao very naturally raised his hand and placed it on his face, flicking it over and over again. When Wang Wan, Li Longji, and Gao Lishir saw Zhang Xiaobao's actions, they all silently mourned for that person called Hu Liang. Xiaobao, it's been a long time since you've had such bad intentions, right? We remember that when you were scheming against the rich people of Great Tang, you didn't do such a thing either. We really miss it. Li Longji patted Zhang Xiaobao's shoulder and said, "Oh, Ichi, I'm not bad. I'm a good person. I'm the kind of person who walks to hell on my own after death, and even the king of hell is too embarrassed to accept me. He says that I'm too kind, and I shouldn't go to hell." Zhang Xiaobao's hand changed from flicking to rubbing, and he rubbed his face a few times. The king of hell is sending you to hell to ruin him. We can even imagine how the infernal judge's hand would tremble when he wrote your name. Tell me, what's the use of this elevator that your technicians came up with? I don't think it's a big deal. Li Longji patted Zhang Xiaobao's head again and pointed at the elevator. Wang Wan covered her mouth and snickered, helping to explain. Your Majesty, the elevator isn't very useful. Even if there isn't an elevator at the docks right now, it won't take too much time to transport goods. However, the elevator isn't just about the engagement of the gears. It involves the strength of the steel of the gears, the compression resistance and regularity of the ball bearings, and the conversion between self-supporting and semi-self-supporting forces. In fact, the elevator was developed in preparation for the lathe. Right now, we have a lathe driven by an electric motor, but if the processed object is too sturdy, the lathe's effect will be reduced. We can't just use the lathe to experiment directly. It's a waste, and it's also very dangerous. Therefore, by collecting data on the elevator and then using it on the lathe, we include the problem of the strength and precision of the different force conversion devices that act on the processed object. It goes like this. Normal force conversion is done through gears. What does a gear do? It embodies the simplest principle of a lever, but normal levers only have a single pivot point, and it's a problem of receiving and supporting forces. However, if we use gears and shafts, we can use this method to create a two-axis interaction, or even a three-axis or more axis cooperation. When this technology is completed, it won't be using the pivot of the lever itself as the center. Instead, during the linkage process, it will be using multiple angles to make the processed object be at the center. In this case, stop, don't talk to me anymore. I don't understand. Now I know that this seemingly useless elevator is actually very useful, right? Quickly go and send a message to Xiaobei and the others. Li Longji was confused. He knew that Wang Wan had already given him a lot of face by not using too many terms and explaining it very simply. However, if he didn't come into contact with this kind of thing and didn't learn it, he wouldn't be able to understand it no matter how simple it was. He just had to change the topic. He took Gao Lisher and hid far away. He found a quiet place to think about what kind of power the person behind this was. As for the industrial side, it was not his business. Actually, after passing the elevator test, we can make the mold for the finished product. Cold forging is very useful sometimes, especially when making sharp objects. Sigh, it's a pity that people don't listen. Wang Wan wanted to tell more about this to others, but she couldn't do anything if they didn't listen. She could only turn around and look at Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao replied with a smile. Honey, please tell me, I'm listening. I haven't learned systematically before, so I don't know much about this. After learning from you, there are too many things to learn. Tell me about it, and I'll see if it can be used in scams. It's very useful to fool people. What's there to say to you? I'm tired of being together with you every day. Tonight, you can sleep somewhere else. I'll have some peace and quiet by myself. After Wang Wan finished speaking, she left Zhang Xiaobao with a beautiful figure. Zhang Xiaobao scratched his head. Why did this happen? It seems that I have to control myself in the future. It won't do for a long time. All right, I'll rest for one night. I have to find a few people who are willing to listen to her lectures. If you don't let me sleep, don't think about sleeping in that room. We'll work for one night, and we can sleep together in the morning tomorrow. Yes, you have to keep your promise. Zhang Xiaobao was a man of his word. As expected, he didn't sleep for the whole night. Wang Wan also didn't sleep. There were always people coming over to ask about the physics lessons. She didn't know why everyone had questions today, and they were more concentrated than usual. Only the technicians knew the reason. Zhang Xiaobao went over and asked them about their skills one by one. When they answered, he continued to ask around the question in detail. In the end, their grasp of the theory was different. Therefore, the technicians said that they couldn't answer. Zhang Xiaobao pointed away for them. He said that Wang Wan asked him to come over to help the technicians learn more as soon as possible. He would be responsible for asking the questions and play a role in guiding them. Wang Wan would wait in the cabin for others to learn. In the end, the technicians went. They were very grateful to Wang Wan, who was so sleepy that she kept yawning but didn't dare to change her clothes and sleep. Hu Liang was in a similar situation as Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. He also realized that the situation in front of him was different from what he had imagined. At first, Hu Liang thought that when he got on the ship, he wouldn't make any unnecessary movements when the other party clearly doubted him. Then, when they arrived in Hangzhou, he would summarize what he saw, heard, and even the types and tastes of the dishes he ate. This would allow him to further understand the Zhang family and the Wang family. This afternoon, he had already struggled in the water. It was not easy to control his body to make large movements in the water while shouting for help. Then he got on the ship. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't worried. Even if he was prepared to be killed at any time, he didn't want to die quickly. Otherwise, he would be really stupid. After tossing around for a while, he was also checked inside and out. Even his teeth were not spared. What was even more infuriating was that whoever checked his lower body used too much strength. It still hurt even now. When he was finally done and started to eat, he realized that he was eating dinner, not the time between lunch and dinner when he said that he was hungry. The other party considerately came over and asked him what he wanted to eat. He even held a book. Oh, it was a menu. There were thousands of dishes in it and asked him to choose. Just looking at the menu was enough to make him dazzled. He finally chose a few dishes. When the dishes were served, he realized that the amount was too large. The other party said that he must eat all the dishes he ordered. Otherwise, it would be a waste and a heinous act. Then he could only eat. After eating, he realized that he was so full that he didn't even dare to move. Speaking of which, the doctor was really amazing. He could guess that she was stuffed, so he got someone to send over some medicine to help with digestion. Once she took it, it really did help with digestion. Originally, she was stuffed, but now she had diarrhea. After struggling for a while, it was already 4 in the morning. He finally wanted to sleep for a while. But what kind of cabin was this? Could they not make the wooden boards between the cabins so thin? In the end, he heard voices. Now, there was still voices. It was endless. Hu Liang lay on the shop and thought. At the same time, his ears couldn't help but listen to the movements of the 3 maidservants in the cabin next to him. You, ask me another question. I love it when people ask me questions, okay? A maidservant's voice sounded. Hu Liang knew that the person who spoke was called Yi. When he first heard her speak, he felt that she was not bad. Her voice was sweet, but it was so sweet for 3 hours. Who could stand it? There was another one, called Z. Together with you, who gave people problems, there were a total of 3 people. The 3 maidservants on night duty had just been switched over 4 hours ago. There was still 1.5 more hours before they had to switch over to sleep. This was what they said. It meant that the maidservants of the Zhang family and Wang family would change shifts for 6 hours. It was very short. The maidservants of other families usually didn't receive such treatment. Occasionally, they would take a break. If the master found out, it would be a big deal. The treatment was good. No wonder they were all loyal. He noted this down, even if it was fake. All right. Yi, you're always like this. I don't have many questions. Next time, if you want me to ask alone, I won't be on night duty with you. Tell me, there's a kind of leisure exercise. When the upper part is happy, the lower part is in pain. When the upper part exerts strength, the lower part is bleeding. What kind of exercise is this? When Hu Liang heard Yi's words, he wanted to curse. You're a girl, yet you're shamelessly asking such a question. Let me think. You, don't tell me first. What kind of exercise is it? When the upper part is happy, the lower part is in pain. I can't think of anything. Just tell me. Yi's voice sounded. At this moment, Zi'er spoke. You're so stupid. It's fishing, right? Only people with impure thoughts would think of something else. Yi, your face is red, yet you're still pretending that you don't know. Oh my God, my thoughts are impure. What kind of question is this? You're cheating me. Hu Liang smacked his head and mumbled. In the end, his voice was accidentally heard by the person next door. Yi's unique sweet voice immediately sounded. Look at you. Your thoughts aren't pure either. Eavesdropping on us. You're a man, yet you're thinking about dirty things all day. Tui, close your ears. Hu Liang opened his mouth and wanted to explain that the wooden plank was too thin. He thought about it and decided not to. With the help of his hand, he successfully closed his ears. As soon as he blocked his ears, he reacted. How could he listen if he blocked his ears? Like a thief, he quietly let go of his ears and perked them up again. This doesn't count. Who asked you, to think of something else? Another one. Good you, say another one. Yi's voice sounded again. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's talk about something else. Tell me, did we really come here with Xiao Bei and the others to catch someone? I think we're going to Hangzhou to meet our relatives. You changed the topic and talked about something else. In my opinion, it's definitely not. Do you know? Xiao Bei and the others want to go to Jiangzhou. There's going to be a railway passing by there. Xiao Bei and the young masters are going to open a shop. The officials in Jiangzhou are really bad. I heard from Madam that there's going to be trouble in Jiangzhou. It was young Master Xiaobao and young Lady Cuckoo who told Madam that many people will die this time. You definitely don't know what the bad guys want to do in Jiangzhou? No, Jiangnan West Road, right? It's scary to say it. They've set up a big trap there that involves all kinds of things. Fortunately, young Master Xiaobao and young Lady Cuckoo have already come up with a plan to deal with it. When Hu Liang heard this, he shivered. He pressed his ears against the wooden plank and narrowed his eyes at the same time so that he could hear more clearly. I really don't know. What is it? You tell us. We promise not to tell anyone else. Ye's sweet voice sounded. Actually, it doesn't matter if others hear it. Before dinner, young Master Xiaobao sent a message saying that he wants Hu Liang, who is new to the ship, to listen to our secret and find an opportunity to let him go. He wants him to spread the news so that young Master can beat us at our own game. Not to mention anything else, young Lady Cuckoo's army has already made a move. Even the Emperor is not idle. Our Tang Empire is going to make a big move and catch all the bad guys in one fell swoop. Yu continued. Hu Liang felt very depressed when he heard this. He really couldn't tell if Yu was telling the truth. If it was true, it meant that the other party had 3 maids. They were probably telling him what was their purpose. But it was fake. His people were indeed going to make a big move. He just didn't know where Wang Wan's army was sent. What kind of big move was the Emperor of Tang Empire referring to? At this moment Z asked, if we tell Hu Liang directly, will he believe us? Why don't we speak louder? He's next door. I believe he can hear us. We've completed the mission, right? Guess, did he cover his ears? Impossible. It was the sweet voice again. I know what kind of person he is the most. He eavesdrops on a girl's conversation. He's so flirtatious. He pretends to be honest on the surface, but he's so flirtatious in his heart. If you don't believe me, why don't we ask him? Hu Liang, did you hear that? If you didn't, snort. If you did, knock on the wooden board. Hu Liang gritted his teeth and persisted. He told himself that no matter what the other party said, he couldn't admit that he was eavesdropping. Even if a girl spoke without thinking carefully, he had to bear with it. He happened to hear the other party's question and snorted. Pa! A crisp sound rang out. Hu Liang had slapped himself. Look, he heard it. He's snorting. Her voice was still as sweet as honey. Sigh. Hu Liang sighed. He covered his mouth with his left hand and pressed his right hand on his left hand. He looked like he wouldn't make a sound even if his nose was blocked and he suffocated to death. I think he's regretting it now. He's a very smart person, but he still did stupid things. Hu Liang, don't worry, we won't laugh at you. Continue listening. We really won't laugh at you. Why don't I sing you a song? It's a kind of love song that Ah Lang sang for Ah Mei. Just listening to her voice made one look forward to how sweet the song would be. Chapter 1047. Hu Liang did not know how he got through the night. The voices in the cabin next door did not stop from evening to dawn. He collected a lot of bits and pieces of information, but he did not know which was true and which was false. The person next door deliberately told him the news. When the person next door asked him a question and he did not answer, the person next door would knock on the cabin board so that he would not fall asleep. There were 2 times when he was really too sleepy and was about to fall asleep, but he was woken up like this. Young master, Hu, you're awake? Come with me to wash up, breakfast is about to begin. Hu Liang walked out with sleepy eyes. Before he could get used to the dazzling morning sun, a person appeared beside him and greeted him with a smile. Thank you for your trouble. Hu Liang politely cupped his hands and followed the person to the bathroom. The bathroom in the morning was different from the bathroom where Hu Liang bathed yesterday afternoon. There were 2 large pools for bathing, and there was something that sprayed water from the top. The inside of the pools and the floor were covered with baked tiles. Ordinary people did not even dare to think about using them, and this was only a place prepared for the people of the inner courtyard. The bathroom was 3 large pools that were half the height of a person. They were also covered with tiles. At this time, there were already many people coming to wash up. They were all men. The women were probably more troublesome. There was a row of mirrors in front of the pools. Some of the men were facing the mirrors and tying up their hair. Some were tied up with ribbons, some were tied up, and some were pinned up with hairpins. Young Master Hu, here are your toiletries. The person who led Hu Liang here opened the cabinet in the bathroom and took out a thin porcelain box. He turned around and handed it to Hu Liang. Hu Liang gently opened the box. There were a few things inside, most of which he recognized. There was a toothbrush with a brown handle, a tube of aluminum toothpaste, a towel made of pure flour, a tea-scented soap, a tube of something similar to toothpaste, and tea for washing his face, a razor, and a comb. There was only a very small and long scissors. He did not know what to do. He looked around and found that someone was using the scissors to cut his nose hair. He could not help but chuckle and muttered, "Just pull out. Why bother to cut it? Men are not like men." That person didn't say anything immediately. When Hu Liang started washing his face and the other party finished cutting his nose hair, he turned his head and said to Hu Liang with an unfriendly expression, "After you're done washing up, we'll go out and fight." "What for?" After wiping his face, Hu Liang asked in surprise, "I'll let you see who's not a man. I'll fight you with one hand. If I can't beat you down within 3 moves, I'll voluntarily quit the Seedling Protection Team. I'll take off the Seedling Protection Team's logo and throw it into the river." The man pointed at the rice seedling logo on his chest. Ugh! Hu Liang estimated the fighting strength of both sides. While squeezing toothpaste into the toothbrush, he said, "Why bother? Actually, pulling is really more convenient than cutting. I've always used the pulling method." Ignorant. It will grow and become thicker after it is plucked out. At that time, it can only be used to block stones and not dust. I don't think you dare to fight one-on-one. Humph. The members of the Seedling Protection Team left after they finished speaking. Hu Liang began to brush his teeth vigorously as he stared at himself in the mirror. His gaze was unfriendly. After brushing his teeth and preparing to shave, he carefully observed his surroundings and continued to mutter, "Do you think I'm afraid of you? You're just brave and ruthless. I'm a think tank." After shaving twice, he stopped to look at the razor and muttered, "Good stuff. The inner courtyard special provision is really extraordinary. Let's shave. I didn't shave before and let it grow on its own." Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan said that only rich people can grow beards. Ordinary people grow beards that delay work and grow parasites. So troublesome. After Hu Liang finished cleaning up, the person who led the way just now called him again. "Young Master Hu, follow me. What do you want to eat? Do you still have the smoked chicken from yesterday?" Although Hu Liang was full last night, he still planned to eat. Last night, not counting other things, he ate 2 smoked chickens alone. Fortunately, they were semi-big chickens that were specially raised for a short period of time for the sake of tenderness. Meat chickens and egg-laying chickens had not been fully cultivated and needed many generations of cultivation. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were already working hard to do this. The person who led the way glanced at Hu Liang. Wei Wei shook her head and replied, "There's no whole chicken. There are cold plates made of bits and pieces. If you want to eat meat, there's cold shredded chicken made of chicken breast meat. Once you've decided, you can't change it. It's shameful to waste basic food. It doesn't matter whether you spend money or whose money you spend." Hu Liang understood the hidden meaning in the other party's words. He estimated that there was something better. If he chose chicken meat, he would miss out on good things. He said, I know. Zhang Xiaobao said that only poor people would order a table of cheap dishes. They would buy steamed buns that cost 100 strings of coins and throw them away because they couldn't afford a dish that cost 1,000 strings of coins. "Wait, let me see first. I'm not busy." When they arrived at the restaurant, Hu Hu Liang was proud of his wisdom. He opened the breakfast menu. There were 30 kinds on one page, and a total of 12 pages were listed. While he was dazzled, Hu Liang found it difficult to choose. He wanted to eat everything he saw. He scratched his head and asked the person who led the way, "What do you want to eat?" "A bowl of bean porridge, 3 pies with pork fillings and 3 cucumber and egg fillings, half a plate of radish pickles, and half a plate of garlic and cucumber. That's all," the person who led the way answered. Hu Liang thought about the taste and shook his head. He asked again, "What did Xiao Bei eat this morning?" "I don't know. Let me ask." The person who led the way turned and left. After a while, he returned. Xiao Bei chose a bowl of milk, 2 sauced steamed eggs with salted mushrooms, 2 tails of sugar-free cake, and a fruit platter. "That's all. Why didn't she eat fried eggs?" "You can tell from the name that it's too troublesome to make," Hu Liang added. "She doesn't like to eat it." The person who led the way answered quickly. "What about Xiao Yuan?" Hu Liang did not plan to eat the same thing as Xiao Bei. She added a sauced steamed egg with salted mushrooms. The person who led the way answered quickly. Yes. Xiao Yuan is a boy and has a bigger appetite than a girl." "Where's Xiaoqiang?" Hu Liang was speechless. 2 bowls of soy milk, half a kilogram of youtiao, half a plate of spicy cabbage, half a plate of salted garlic, and a plate of dried tofu with onion oil. "Why do you want 2 bowls of soy milk?" "Because she likes to drink it." "All right. Give me 2 bowls of soy milk, 2 trays of soup dumplings, a large plate of soy sauce smoked chicken wings, 6 spicy duck heads, and a plate of pig's ears. If I can't finish them, can I take them back to the cabin?" "That's fine. But we can go to the kitchen whenever we want to eat, as long as it doesn't affect our work. If you want to eat buns, I suggest you order tofu pudding instead of soy milk. I like to eat this way. I don't need the duck heads and chicken wings first. I'll go to the kitchen to choose when I'm hungry." After spending a lot of energy on breakfast, Hu Liang finally chose what he wanted to eat. He looked around and chose a table near the window of the cabin of the restaurant and sat down. While waiting for the food to be delivered, Hu Liang continued to observe. The restaurant wasn't small. There were 30 square and round tables inside. If it weren't for the few wooden pillars holding them up, the canopy would probably have fallen down. The words "Restaurant Number 1" were written at the entrance. Thinking about it, there should be restaurants number 2, number 3, and so on. Maybe it was a big restaurant and a small restaurant, and Xiao Bei and the others wanted to sit alone. While Hu Liang was thinking, the breakfast he ordered was brought over by the servant who was in charge of leading the way. The servant sat across from him. Just as he was about to speak, everyone in the restaurant stood up at the same time and said in unison, "Hello, madam." Hu Liang also stood up. He was shocked. "Hello, everyone. Please take a seat." When they heard a woman's voice, they all sat back down with a hua sound. Only then did Hu Liang see the person who came out of the door through the gaps between the people who were walking to and fro to get food. With just one look, he was stunned. The person who came in was Jiang Wang clan, Madame Wang, Xiao Bei, and the other 11 children. They were puzzled and asked the servant opposite them, "Is the master eating together? Why are you here if you're not eating together?" The servant asked, "What I mean is that the master needs to have the identity of the master. If you're always with the people below you, it's easy to lose your dignity. Only by keeping a distance can the people below you respect you, understand?" Hu Liang explained. "Madam has already kept a distance. She usually doesn't joke with us. Only Xiao Bei likes to joke with us. But how can we dare to think that she's easy to bully? Do you understand?" The servant replied. "That's too casual." Hu Liang insisted on his opinion. "If you keep talking about it, I'll chase you off the boat. No, I'll lock you in a small dark room. It's safer to eat together. If there's any danger, the people around you will be your cover." The servant was obviously angry. Hu Liang raised a hand and signaled for the other party to stop talking about this topic. He lowered his head and began to eat. As he ate, he realized that other than the sound of eating, the restaurant was very quiet. So he raised his head again to look. He whispered to the servant in front of him, "To be honest, if you guys go to a big family, the treatment you get is much better than the Zhang clan and Wang clan. For example, if you get 10 strings of cash a month in the Zhang clan and Wang clan, you can ask for 10 strings of cash a month. If you go to a big family, you can ask for 10 strings of cash, which is 100 strings of cash, and people will fight to get you." "Really?" the servant asked in a low voice. "Of course." Hu Liang nodded. "Can you introduce me to a big family?" the servant asked again. Hu Liang shook his head in disappointment. "I'm just kidding. I thought you would scold and refute me. Who doesn't know the benefits of being in the Zhang clan and Wang clan? The monthly salary is only a small part of it. The real benefits are the stability of the family and the other benefits. For example, if it's a meal other than you, who else would let you choose from hundreds of different kinds of food? You see, if I want to join the inner courtyard of the Zhang clan and Wang clan, is it difficult?" "Not difficult, not difficult at all." Hu Liang was very happy to hear the reply, but he was surprised because the voice came from behind him, and it was a child's voice. Hu Liang turned his head and saw Xiao Bei standing there with a piece of watermelon in her hand. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled, asking, "Why don't you walk?" "Because I'm wearing soft-soled shoes. I like to run around, and hard-soled shoes aren't good for my feet." Back to what I said just now. Tell me your family's name and address, and I'll find them. You can directly join the inner yard. Okay? Xiao Bei raised one of her feet to show the soles of her shoes. Her eyes were smiling like crescent moons as she asked, "This is not necessary. I'll apply to join after I learn more skills. When I get to Hangzhou, I'll be separated from you. I really don't want to leave." How could Hu Liang tell her his family? He pretended to be very regretful, but he refused. Xiao Bei smiled indifferently. "I don't want to leave you either, so you have to go to Jiang district with me. You can't stay in Hangzhou. Actually, we already know where your family is. Your father's surname is not Hu. Don't underestimate our family's intelligence system. Maybe you can reunite with them in a few days. Thank you." "You sigh." Hu Liang's eyes suddenly widened. Then, he sighed in frustration and stopped talking. Instead, he stared at Xiao Bei. "I'm going back to eat. In the future, remember to always tell yourself that as a spy or a spy, you either keep silent or nod and show agreement no matter what others say. That's the only way to qualify. Sigh. I'm due to chill by. Eat slowly. You can eat whatever you want while you're in Jiang district. There are also various games for you to play. Don't feel burdened. Cherish the peaceful time." Xiao Bei said something to Hu Liang and then silently floated away. Hu Liang fell silent again and lowered his head to eat. He didn't need to ask at all. Just based on his reaction, just now, the other party knew a lot of things. The first was that he still had other people. The second was that he cared about his family. The third was that his surname was fake. From the other party's words, he could also understand what the other party meant. He couldn't spread the news. The other party had made it very clear that he knew that he didn't have good intentions. At the same time, he didn't care about what he could do. He might even make use of him. After he finished eating, the inner courtyard opposite him put down his chopsticks at the same time and said, "Young master, come here. You can play games now. There are classic Monopoly games and sandbox games for commanding. If you don't want to play, you can play billiards, mahjong, poker, and so on." Hu Liang nodded and walked out of the restaurant with the inner courtyard. He turned his head and asked, "Will I die?" The inner courtyard shook his head. "I don't know. I only know that you won't die now. Wait until Jiang district. Didn't you already think about dying on the ship when you came?" Hu Liang nodded and then suddenly shook his head. "When I came here, I thought that I would have a chance to go back alive. The success rate was very high. Who would have thought that you guys are different from what I thought? It's okay. Maybe Xiao Bei and the others will be happy and let you go. You're just a pawn. It doesn't matter whether we kill you or not. It won't affect us." The inner courtyard comforted Hu Liang again. The two of them walked and talked in low voices. If people who didn't know the details saw them, they would think that the two of them were not enemies, but close friends. Old Man Wang finished his meal in advance. He was old and slept less, but he slept more often. He liked to go to bed early and then get up early. After eating, he would find a place to stroll around and talk to people of similar status. When he was in Hangzhou, he usually chatted with the local provincial governor and the people of the various departments. After all, the identity of his master was not ordinary. Although the emperor had somewhat alienated him and sent his master out of the capital, the position of provincial governor was still there. In addition to such an official, he could only find the local big families. Usually, he would do business with them, so there were not many people he could talk to. He was not like Xiao Bei, who could chat with people regardless of their status. Xiao Bei had a good brother and sister. He didn't need to care about what promises he made with others and couldn't fulfill them. It was the same today. He wanted to find the technicians on the ship or those who specialized in learning to chat. When he turned his head, he saw Hu Liang with the people of the inner courtyard. They were talking and laughing as they walked toward the entertainment room. He was stunned for a moment. He raised his hand to call a maid and asked, "How are you going to deal with Hu Liang? I think he looks good today. Did you reach an agreement with him?" The maid didn't have much defense against Old Man Wang. She replied, "He didn't sleep well last night. He forced himself to stay awake. He will probably fall asleep when he plays the game later. We can't have any agreement with him. We don't kill him now, because he is still useful. When he's no longer useful, we'll have to see what young Master Xiaobao and young Lady Cuckoo want to do. I reckon that the two of them won't kill Hu Liang. Instead, they'll give him a new identity and train him so that he can continue doing what he's doing now." Old Man Wang thought for a while and understood. If Hu Liang was kept alive, others would feel uncertain. Especially when they saw that Hu Liang was treated well on the ship, they would think that he had betrayed the organization in exchange for benefits. And Hu Liang couldn't commit suicide himself. He must find a chance to spread the news. This was the time for the two sides to compete with wisdom and courage to see who would be better. I will also go to the entertainment room to have a look. Unfortunately, I can't play gate ball. When I was in Hangzhou, I had nothing to do, so I played gate ball. But I can only play it once every 10 days. Everyone else is busy. Old Man Wang walked in the direction of the entertainment room as he spoke. The maid thought for a while and said, "Steward Wang, you shouldn't go to the entertainment room now. You should go to the infirmary. Yesterday, when young Master Xiaobao sent the news, he said that you should go to the infirmary to have a look. Then you can be nursed back to health. You can't eat 3 meals a day now. You have to eat at least 4 meals a day. You must have snacks a few times in between. You have to eat less every meal and eat more every day. You have to follow special procedures to maintain your health. I am already so old, and I have seen Xiao Bei and the others. Even if I die tomorrow, I will be satisfied. Xiao Bei is so smart. I don't know how to teach him. Xiao Hai is also good. He has the style of a master in the family, especially since he usually doesn't talk. I think he will be better than Xiao Bao in the future." Old Man Wang still walked in the direction of the entertainment room. He looked stubborn. The maid didn't stop him, but followed him. She said as she walked, "Yes, if I had a younger brother and sister like him, I would have no regrets if I died tomorrow. But if I could live, wouldn't it be better? The longer I live, the longer I can take care of them. If they cause trouble outside, I can also help. Our family designed a life with rules. It's not a rigid rule, but a very flexible one. Ordinary people can't enjoy it. In the imperial court, people below the 5th rank and under the age of 60 are definitely not given a hand." Old Man Wang stopped walking at this time. He stood there and thought for a while. Then he asked, "Where is the infirmary?" Xiao Bao, Cuckoo, where is she? This emperor has a good idea to tell you. Where is she?" While Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan ran to the observation deck to enjoy the scenery, Li Longji ran into their room and walked around. After coming out, he stood below the observation deck and shouted, "Let's go down. I don't know what he's thinking of again." Can't he see that the two of us are enjoying some alone time here? When Zhang Xiaobao heard the voice, he looked down and saw Li Longji looking up. Opposite him, Wang Wan said with a smile, "I guess it's about the people's livelihood. He's recently become addicted to this kind of thing. He always wants to achieve communism one step at a time. Communism under the control of imperial power." Wang Wan said as she climbed down. As soon as the two of them came down, Li Longji began to complain. "Look at the two of you. Why didn't you tell me that you were going up there? You made it difficult for me to find you. If you want to go somewhere in the future, you should tell your Majesty first. Or, you should send someone to wait for your Majesty at the entrance, so that your Majesty doesn't have to ask twice." Zhang Xiaobao didn't believe that Li Longji would spend a long time searching. Basically, he would know where he and Cuckoo were the moment he asked the second person. Sure, it's not that troublesome. Xiaobao, what did I think of?" Li Longji seemed very excited, as if he had a good idea waiting for Zhang Xiaobao to ask. Zhang Xiaobao played along and asked, "Your Majesty, what good idea did you think of this time? Quick, tell this subject. Next time, you have to be more professional when you pretend. Just by looking at your expression, I can tell that you don't mean what you say." However, this time, this emperor really did think of a good idea. It's an idea that can help the people in need when the rich people in the village are too busy. Li Longji didn't lose interest because of Zhang Xiaobao's perfunctory words. He waved his arm and looked like he was giving advice. Zhang Xiaobao didn't respond to Li Longji's words. Instead, he looked at Wang Wan. Wang Wan and Wei Wei nodded and said, "Your Majesty, did you think of this idea? If a village needs help, for example, if there's a family that doesn't have enough manpower other than the old and young, you can ask the other villagers to help. When the time comes, you will give them a certain amount of benefits, such as reputation or worthless awards. Isn't it similar to how merchants sponsor schools?" Wang Wan's words shocked Li Longji. He asked in confusion, "Cuckoo, how did you know? Didn't you and Xiaobao always say that when building a material civilization, we can't forget about building a spiritual civilization? Otherwise, once there's a deviation, it'll be very difficult to change it back. It'll take years, decades, or even decades to hundreds of years before the people can regain their confidence." This emperor thought that when it comes to the spiritual side, which is also the moral side, we naturally have to start from the most basic social structure. A village is just right. What do you all think? After saying that, Li Longji stared at Zhang Xiaobao, afraid that Zhang Xiaobao would say something against his idea. This was how interesting the world was. The more one was afraid of something, the more likely it would happen. If it was someone else, they might say something against their will to please Li Longji. However, Zhang Xiaobao definitely didn't care about Li Longji's feelings, especially when it came to the people's livelihood. After hearing Li Longji's words, Zhang Xiaobao didn't consider Li Longji's feelings at all. He directly said, "Actually, after this year, I'm thinking of taking over the matter of merchants sponsoring schools, so that the merchants don't have to continue investing. The funds required for the schools will all be taken care of by Your Majesty's money in the bank." Honestly speaking, the amount of money invested in the children isn't too much, and our great Tang can still bear it. Great Tang needs the people to have a conscience and guide them to a better direction, but it doesn't mean that we should push the responsibility to the people. The people have already paid the taxes, so why should we make them pay more? That only shows that the people in charge are incompetent. Zhang Xiaobao's blunt words made Li Longji feel very uncomfortable. If it was anyone else, he would have already chased them away or flung his sleeves and left. But facing Zhang Xiaobao, he couldn't do so. He knew that getting angry at Xiaobao and Cuckoo was useless. The losses outweighed the gains, and it would only make him seem petty. "Xiaobao, Cuckoo, the two of you are the people we trust the most. Since these words came from Xiaobao's mouth, I believe that you should have a good idea. Share it with us." Li Longji cleverly pushed a question to Zhang Xiaobao. But who would have thought that Zhang Xiaobao would look at Wang Wan once more? Wang Wan could only continue the conversation. "In truth, it's very simple. If your majesty wants the people to do something, don't give them any rewards. Let them feel that when they do something good, they aren't doing it for the sake of other people's appreciation. The rewards don't need to be material, and even the spiritual rewards from the court are dispensable. When they do something, they think more about their own conscience. If they want to do something, they will do it. Just like me and Xiaobao, we don't need your majesty's praise. And we don't care if your majesty is angry or not. We just want to speak frankly. Because our hearts are open, we do things that are worthy of our conscience. If we want to do something, we will do it. It's just like how Xiaobei gave lollipops to Big Man and Little Man. Li Longji nodded, indicating for Wang Wan to continue. In his heart, however, he thought angrily, "You don't care because you treat the great Tang as your own. In your eyes, I, the emperor, am just a symbol that helps you maintain your status." When he thought of this, Li Longji didn't need Wang Wan to explain. He immediately understood and said, "We understand. What we want to do isn't to reward, but to let the people of the great Tang treat the great Tang as their own. Then we won't care about anything." Zhang Xiaobao was very satisfied with Li Longji's ability to think things through so quickly. Seeing that Li Longji couldn't think of a solution at the moment, he said to him, "What your majesty needs to do now is to set up donation boxes in various places, and then set up different funds. Anyone who wants to help others can take the initiative to put the amount of money they think they can afford into the boxes. This way, it won't be a reward or a forced action. The donation boxes don't need any locks, and they have to be made of glass. Everyone can see the money in the boxes and can take it out at any time. When faced with this kind of temptation, the people of the Great Tang would rather find work to earn a living. They would rather eat simple food than secretly take money. When that day comes, the Great Tang will be invincible in the world. When the test of human nature is over, that will be the happiest moment of the soul." As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he thought of the abnormal days he and Cuckoo had 100 years ago. Although many people criticized them in that era, they had indeed done these two things. Even if a father secretly put a grain of sand in the useless books and papers sold so that his child could go to school, his child would still report it. At that time, the lives of the people weren't rich, and in some places, a person only had 3 grams of oil a month. However, it was precisely in that deformed era that people would help each other. It was also under the support of that kind of spirit that they fought one classic battle after another, using the worst weapons to fight against the most advanced weapons. When the horn of charge didn't stop, the horn of charge wouldn't stop. Unfortunately, a deformity was a deformity, and the development of society was too slow. When it developed faster, that spirit was gone. That was an era that made people feel helpless, but also an era that made people reluctant to part with. As he thought of this, Zhang Xiaobao glanced at Wang Wan. Wang Wan could be said to have a tacit understanding of this. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dared to clamor about using cold weapons to fight against the other party's hot weapons. It was because there was a word called spirit, and there was a kind of attitude that was fearless. Those days were truly worth reminiscing about. The world was vast, and how many heroes had led the city to set up camp. But at that time, who dared to call themselves the world's #1 army in the face of a charging army blowing trumpets? Wang Wan smiled, a smile of pride unique to soldiers. Following Zhang Xiaobao's words, she said, "This matter can be said to be difficult, but it can also be said to be simple. I can guarantee that wherever I and Xiaobao have family members who have been officials, the people there will very consciously abide by this rule that isn't a rule. If there is good from above, then the people below will follow. Xiaobao and I have already set an example. That is, when facing the lives of the people, when there are people who doubt us, as officials, we can have a clear conscience. When facing the development of business, we can be firm and unyielding. If your majesty wants to do this, then you should also set an example. Invest the first copper coin. Make the first declaration. I believe that at the very least, those people who have been depositing money in the Tang Bank 2 days ago will follow suit and take the initiative to supervise." Li Longji listened and thought. For a moment, he seemed to enter a dreamlike world. Faintly, he said, "Is it like that ha-ha-ha mirror flower fate that you told Xiao Bei and the others about?" Zhang Xiaobao shook his head. "In this world, there is no such thing as a gentleman. There are only trade-offs. If you invest in one aspect, you will inevitably be rewarded in another aspect. Take me and Cuckoo, for example. In truth, everything we invest in is not in the pursuit of material goods. Although we make a lot of money, the purpose of making money is so that we can support the things we pursue. We don't have high requirements for material goods, at least according to the amount of money we earn. We only do it for the pure land in our hearts. The meaning of our lives lies in this. Thus, we will not allow others to sully this land. Otherwise, we will use blood to wash it away." Li Longji nodded. He had to admit that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were true to their words. Anyone who dared to touch their bottom line was truly tired of living. Their hands were stained with blood, but in the eyes of the people of the Great Tang, they were clean and pure. Those whose hearts were for the people were revered by the people. After thinking about the two's words, Li Longji nodded. "We understand. We will think of a way to satisfy the needs of the people in terms of survival. Then, we will make the people feel that survival is not the only thing. There are still many things that they need to do. Their purpose in life is definitely not to eat and wear. Then what should we do now? Immediately have people place glass boxes in the various villages? And then explain the use of these boxes? That won't do. If we really do that, the people will be worried that their money will be stolen. The current situation is actually not bad. At the very least, the trust of the imperial court is still there. The people are willing to trust the imperial court, and they are even more willing to trust us. The first thing we need to do is to strengthen this trust. At the same time, we need to strike at those with unstable minds. When everything has become a habit of life, why would we need to use glass boxes to store donations?" Zhang Xiaobao was very glad that the imperial court was still able to control the people, and the people were also willing to trust the imperial court. If a certain fund or association was established, the people would be able to release Qianwan without worry. They wouldn't have to worry about people being greedy. This was because they knew that the imperial court would constantly send out inspectors to supervise and control each other. They knew that telegrams could be sent directly to the capital. If they found that some officials were unqualified and took away their donated money, the imperial court wouldn't just ignore them if they sent a telegram. This was especially so for himself, Cuckoo, and Xiao Bei. The imperial court had zero tolerance for corrupt officials. It could even be said that if an official was caught by Xiao Bei and the others, even if they didn't die, they would at least lose a layer of skin. This was an era where even the aristocratic families had to consider ethics and morality when doing things. This was because Li Longji, the emperor, didn't say that regardless of whether the underworld was right or wrong, as long as they could get money, they would be good people. Li Longji didn't know what Zhang Xiaobao was thinking. Looking at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan giggling at each other, he asked gloomily, "In other words, we can't realize our idea right now, right? There's no place to put the boxes to receive donations, and we can't monitor them. Is that right?" "There's a place. There's definitely a place. I thought of a good place." Xiao Bei and the others set up a chain of 4,000 candy houses. "Why don't we put them there? When someone goes to spend money, they can put the change into the donation boxes. I believe that no one will dare to touch the unlocked boxes, and no one will suspect that Xiao Bei and the others didn't use the money on related matters. If your majesty feels that the number is not enough, we can also put donation boxes in all of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan shops. When the people are relieved and get used to it, we can find the top 100 merchants on the list of top billionaires and ask them to put the boxes in their shops." Zhang Xiaobao didn't need to think too much about it and immediately said where the donation boxes should be placed. When Li Longji heard this, he nodded repeatedly. "Yes, there's a place. So Xiao Bei and the others' candy houses can be used like this. Doesn't that mean that in the future, we can use them anywhere that is similar?" Li Longji was happy. He believed that once this matter started, it would definitely achieve good results. When the time came, he would let 100 capable merchants take charge of this matter. Those merchants would definitely not take the risk for a small amount of money. It was not an exaggeration to say that merchants who could enter the list of top billionaires were making a lot of money every day. After the donations were distributed, no matter how much money their shops could receive, it would not be enough for them to take the risk of being greedy. Zhang Xiaobao nodded and then said, "Not only do we have to do this in the Tang Empire, we also have to help people from other countries. When the time is right, we will use righteousness to pressure other countries. Even if their country's productivity is not good and their national treasury's income is not enough, we will use this banner to promote them. If they donate to us, we will use it. A portion will be directly used to improve their people's lives, and the other portion will be used to support their political opponents. If they think that they are smart and set up such a donation box, we will secretly investigate them." I believe that in a situation where their productivity is not high enough and their education cannot keep up, there will definitely be people who will use this money for other purposes. We will do our best to publicize this matter and criticize them. Then we will encourage their people to rebel. This way, when we attack them again, their people will support us and think that we represent justice. When Li Longji heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, he unknowingly broke out in a cold sweat. This Xiaobao was really too evil. As long as there was a resource that could be used, he would use it to harm others. However, this was also what he liked. So he nodded and said, "Then let's start with Xiao Bei and the others' candy houses. We hope that one day, wherever the Tang empires will goes, the local people will overthrow their government and then welcome the Tang Empire's dragon grace." While Xiao Bei and the group of children were still learning, they received a telegram from their emperor uncle. Xiao Bei was the first to take it and read it to the others. Then she said, "Look, this is how Uncle Emperor trusts us. Tell the people who are building the candy houses in various places to work hard to speed up and strengthen the supervision. I want to see who dares to touch that sum of money." Xiao Bei appeared very excited as she spoke. Her eyes swept across the faces of her brothers and sisters, hoping to get approval. However, her brothers and sisters all frowned. Xiao Yuan asked, "Then where should this sum of money be placed?" "If it is placed in a bank, who will be responsible for the interest? How do we explain it to the people who took out the money?" "Interest? The interest will be used as labor costs. We have to arrange for people to withdraw the money, calculate it, and then help to send the money to the people who need it. This is all a cost, and when the time comes, we will use the interest to settle the bill. If anyone objects, let them handle it personally and see if they want to be paid. Isn't that right? Even if we don't want the money ourselves, for example, if we want to buy food for the people who need it, won't the transportation cost be added to this? Then it's about how to spend the money. We have to settle the accounts once a month and post it on a notice to let others know that we didn't get any benefits from it. Is that okay?" Xiao Bei circled around this matter. In this short period of time, she had already thought of many things. However, Xiao Yuan still shook her head. "But if we do as you say, the prices of the various items in each place are different. The transportation costs are also different. Some are transported by land, while others are transported by water. How are you going to make the people believe that the cost of the place you mentioned is that high?" Xiao Bei was taken aback. Then she said, "Our existence is a guarantee. Would anyone doubt us? If I were really greedy for money, why would I take out my own money to help others? Anyone who objects to us has bad intentions. You mean to say that we are not allowed to have different opinions?" Xiao Yuan continued to pour cold water on her. "We are allowed to have different opinions. For example, some people praise us and say that Xiao Bei and Xiao Yuan are great. This is one kind of opinion, but it can also be another. They say that if we don't believe Xiao Bei and Xiao Yuan, who else can we believe? Another saying is that if we have to find a faction that we are not afraid of, it will definitely be Xiao Bei and Xiao Yuan. At the same time, it can also be..." "Xiao Bei, stop. Why do I hear you saying all the same thing? We can't be so shameless, okay? Xiao Yuan was speechless when he heard Xiao Bei say the same thing in different words. He hurriedly interrupted Xiao Bei and asked, "What's the matter? You can't always praise? That's easy. Let's have a meeting and say what you think." "That's good." Xiao Bei really couldn't think of any good ideas, so she used the most common method, a meeting. While Xiao Bei and the others were having a meeting, Hu Liang heard about the donation box from the people in the inner court. He couldn't imagine Zhang Xiaobao's goal, but when he heard about this matter, his eyes lit up and he thought about his own organization. Thus, he didn't rest well during the day, and when night came, he couldn't sleep again. This time, no one disturbed him, although the voices next door were still there. He was excited. He thought that he could use the Great Tang's current policy to help his side gain more benefits. While he was too excited to sleep, Hu Liang was troubled again. He realized that he was still on the boat, and this plan was about to be used by the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang clan. If he couldn't follow suit, he wouldn't have a chance to enter this industry when the time came. That was money. If a person was given 1 copper coin a day, with so many people in the Great Tang, they would receive more than 10,000 strings of coins a day. It was definitely not a small amount. He believed that even those on the top rankings would be tempted. But this money had a limit. If he couldn't immediately spread the news, the organization would miss a good opportunity. With this thought, Hu Liang couldn't sleep. Chapter 1048. While Hu Liang was tossing and turning, unable to sleep, there was also a group of people on the bank of the canal who were very restless. After they got on the boat from Hu Liang, they began to follow the boat. They walked on land and along the river. The boat went with the current. When the weather was good, the sails would be raised. Not only was it easy, but it was also fast. However, the people they were following were riding horses. People could persist for a long time without eating or eat and drink on the back of a horse. If their riding skills were good enough, sleeping on the back of a horse was not a problem. But as horses, they couldn't bear it. Standing up to sleep and constantly rushing were two different things. After running with the ship for an entire day, the horses only rested for half an hour. When night came, the horses clearly could not bear it. There was a small group of 7 people. On the surface, they looked like merchants. There were horses and carriages. It was difficult for outsiders to see what was in the carriages, as they were covered with cloth. After half a month of climbing, there was finally a horse that couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't very fast, but it didn't have much rest. It fell down with a boom, and after that, it couldn't get up anymore. "No, we can't continue. Otherwise, the horse will die of exhaustion, and we will not be well." A person who had just been riding a horse was now lying on the ground. It was much warmer here than in the capital. Not only were the weeds on the riverbank showing 2 inches of their bodies, even the nearby trees had sprouted new buds. The person who spoke just happened to be lying on the grass. A lot of the grass was pressed down, and he was panting. It was unknown whether it was because he was tired from riding a horse or because he had just fallen. "Third brother, it's a sunny day today. You should get up quickly to avoid catching a cold. Eighth brother is really too much." He said that when he got on the boat, he would think of a way to ask for information and then send it to us. Now I see him playing with others on the deck, but there is no news at all. I really don't know what he is thinking. Another person said to the person lying on the grass. The person who was lying down propped up his upper body with his arm and looked at the brightly lit fleet that was still rapidly moving downstream. He said, "Fifth brother, I think eighth brother has his own difficulties. Didn't he already tell us before he boarded the ship? He said that if he can't send a message, it means that he's in a bad situation. He asked us to be very, very, very careful. It's best if we can take turns to follow him so that we won't be targeted. At the same time, we can't send a telegram. Let's wait and see if eighth brother still doesn't send us a message tomorrow. If he does, it means that eighth brother is in great danger." Wait, I also want to wait. The problem is whether the person who sent us here is willing to wait. When the time comes, we will not be able to complete the mission and will be punished when we return. The one who was called fifth brother by the person lying on the ground was not very happy. Seeing that he could not catch up, he could only grit his teeth and squeeze out the words from his mouth. Another person followed his words and said, "Fifth brother is right. Eighth brother is not so smart that he can do things perfectly. Maybe he really forgot. We should send the message back as soon as possible. Sometimes, the more dangerous it is, the safer it is. If we don't send the message now and delay the mission, we can't afford to be punished. I agree to send a telegram." What about the others? A person who had not spoken glanced at the remaining 6 people and asked, "I agree, I disagree, I also agree." The other 6 people said in unison. At last, 3 people agreed to send a telegram and 3 opposed. Everything fell back to the person who asked. The person paused for a moment and said, "Well, in this case, I also agree to send a telegram. Eighth brother is a coward. He said that the telegram we sent would be easily intercepted. After all, we are using the Tang Empire's information transmission method. They will definitely strengthen the defense and inspection of every telegram. In the current situation, there is a big possibility that we will be exposed, but I think it is impossible. When we send a telegram, we don't use words that are very obvious at first glance. We send the telegram specifically to other places to send the price of various grains, meat, and other products. The people in charge of inspection will not judge whether we are doing bad things behind the scenes every time according to the price we send out. I agree with eldest brother's suggestion. It is better to send a telegram than to be unable to keep up with the speed of the other party. Whether eighth brother has encountered a problem or he has forgotten to contact us, we must report it truthfully. Fifth brother, who had just spoken, agreed. Third brother looked at second brother and saw that second brother was indifferent. He sighed and said, "For votes against 3. In this case, let's find a place to send the telegram." Second brother, who had not spoken, suggested, "If we're going to send a telegram, we should first buy more goods so that people will know that we are real merchants and not spies." After coming to a decision, the 7 of them didn't mind. It was still night, so they walked along the road, knocking on people's houses. Especially in places like the small shops, they spent more money than usual to buy things that people cultivated and grew. This made the goods in the caravan even more abundant. Then, without waiting for dawn, they immediately found the nearest place where they could send a telegram. Usually, the place where they could send a telegram did not rest for 24 hours. Unless there was a special situation, if someone was in a hurry, it was very likely that they would not be able to send the message in time. When the telegram sounded, the 7 of them could no longer see Xiaobei and the others' fleet that was going south along the canal. The 7 of them did not rest, but sent a telegram, causing Zhang Xiaobao and the others to be unable to have a good rest. Seeing that it was already midnight, Zhang Xiaobao, who was sleeping soundly with Wang Wan in his arms, was woken up by the movement outside the cabin. He casually put on his clothes and opened the cabin door. He saw the people from the inner courtyard standing at the door waiting, looking a little anxious. "Young master, we have found Hu Liang's accomplices. They sent a report of the price of vegetables to Jiang District an hour ago tonight. Take a look." The inner courtyard said and handed the report to Zhang Xiaobao. After taking a look, Zhang Xiaobao revealed a disdainful smile. He nodded to the people from the inner courtyard and said, "Continue to keep an eye on them. They dare to play this trick with us. They really underestimate us. When they continue to send telegrams, you guys collect them and compare them a few more times. Try your best to decipher the key algorithm." "Yes." The person from the inner courtyard replied and turned to Wei. "Xiaobao, what's wrong? Did they send a secret message?" Wang Wan also woke up and asked while rubbing her eyes. "They did. It's a good idea to report the price of vegetables to other places, but it's a little stupid. Where do you think rice can be sold for 7 copper coins per kilogram? This is clearly a corresponding code with a high number. Now that the people in Jiang District have followed, none of them can escape. Even if we can't decipher it, we can follow the clues and find the other party's secret telegram. Zhang Xiaobao shook the telegram in his hand twice and said to Wang Wan. Wang Wan lay down again after hearing this and muttered, "There's no hurry. It's impossible for Jiang District to send a price report to the other party tonight. There are still a few hours to arrange. Even if the other party finds something wrong from the telegram, they won't have a chance to run away. Let's sleep." Xiao Bei naturally also received the information. After listening to the analysis of the person in charge of this matter, Xiao Bei hugged the information and slept well. At dawn the next day, when Hu Liang was about to freshen up again and go to eat, the person from the inner courtyard who led the way yesterday came over with a piece of paper in his hand and said to Hu Liang, "Young master Hu, last night we received a telegram from someone else. Oh, it's an interception. The content is a price list for vegetables, fruits, grains, and other things." We didn't notice it at first, but 7 copper coins per kilogram of rice is really too expensive. It's more than 3 times the normal price of rice. Some of us joked that the person who sent the telegram was crazy. Where could they find such expensive rice in the thousands of miles north and south of the river? If you don't believe me, take a look. Isn't it interesting? While they were talking, the person from the inner courtyard handed the telegram over. Hu Liang didn't have time to read the contents of the telegram. He only listened to the words of the inner courtyard. In an instant, it was as if he had been struck by a bolt from the blue. All the pores on his body opened up, and he felt cold all over. He took the telegram in a daze and looked at the content on it. Hu Liang exhaled softly and slowly closed his eyes. After a while, he opened them again and asked, "How did you find out?" "We have a group of people who are in charge of figuring out encryption and decryption. The method you used is too simple. We don't have to spend as much effort as you when we send messages. This time, we directly send groups of numbers or letters and then restore them. Tell me, what's the content of the telegram sent by the 5 of them? I believe you know that no matter who receives the telegram in Jiang District, they can't escape our surveillance. We'll give you a chance to make a contribution. If we're satisfied with your answer, you can still see your family." The person from the inner courtyard explained a little. He watched Hu Liang's expression and asked. Hu Liang nodded dejectedly and asked, "Can you guarantee that you'll let me go? That I can still live a normal life? As long as your answer is useful to us, nothing is impossible." The person from the inner courtyard made an uncertain promise. "Okay, I'll tell you. The content is that they found out that my operation failed. They told the people in Jiang District not to act rashly. It's best to endure for a while. When Xiaobei goes there, don't make any reaction. Hide in the dark and don't be exposed. However, I reckon that the people of Jiang Province might not completely listen to the 5 of them. They will still send out men of sacrifice to assassinate Xiaobei instead of not leaving any traces behind. As for the rest, I can't guess. Unless you can provide me with new information, I can help you analyze it." Hu Liang looked like he had lost his fighting spirit. After he finished speaking, he squatted there and looked at the tiny gap between the deck and the wood. He was in a daze. The person from the inner courtyard nodded and said to him, "Okay, I'll report it truthfully. As long as you sincerely repent, you'll still have a new life." After he finished speaking, the person from the inner courtyard left. A few other people were responsible for protecting Hu Liang and preventing any danger from happening to him. The person from the inner courtyard who got the information found Xiaobei and the others again. He shook his head and said he still didn't tell the truth. I said that they had 5 accomplices, so he followed my words. It seems that the management of this organization is very strict. Even if we found the person who received the information in Jiang District, we couldn't find their roots. Also, I judged that they didn't know that we were going to Jiang District. If there was an ambush, it would probably be in Hangzhou. Otherwise, Hu Liang wouldn't have emphasized the assassination in Jiang District. He got the information from the maids in our inner courtyard yesterday and the night before yesterday. Xiaobei and the 9 children looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Xiao Bei said it's fun. It seems that Hu Liang is not an ordinary person. Tell brother and sister. We'll speed up and not give them too much time to react. After this incident, Xiao Bei's fleet suddenly sped up. Hu Liang was no longer able to obtain any useful information from the servant girl next door. As a result, on the third night after he was on the ship, he once again suffered from insomnia. 3 days passed by as the wind blew and the clouds moved. In Jiang District, as analyzed, the person who received the information did not immediately contact others. It was a woman. To be precise, it was an old woman. She had 2 houses and a small courtyard where she had just sowed seeds. The person who received the telegram was her. At the same time, she added that she should pass it to her son. However, the intelligence personnel of the Zhang family and the Wang family could not find out her real identity, let alone where her son was. The only record was the local government's household registration. Her surname was also Hu. She had 3 sons, Huda, Hu, Er, and Husan. However, the household registration could not record anything in her family. Therefore, it was difficult to figure out whether her son existed or where he was. For the past 3 days, the old woman surnamed Hu lived a very regular life. In the morning, when the sun was about to rise, she would get up and go outside to get a bucket of water from the well to freshen up. Then, she would go outside to eat a bowl of noodles in the pastry shop. After that, she would slowly walk by the local river. At noon, she would go to another restaurant to eat wontons. In the afternoon, she would continue to walk by the river. In the evening, she would randomly find a stall selling food on the street and buy 2 steamed buns. When she returned home, she would eat the pickles she made herself. And so, there was not the slightest change. The people monitoring her did not see anyone visit her, and she never spoke much to others. The only time they could hear her talking was when she was strolling by the river. When she was tired of walking, she sat there leaning against a big tree, muttering words that could not be heard clearly as she looked at the flowing river. This news quickly spread to Zhang Xiaobao's ship. After Li Longji saw it, he was confused and asked, "Xiaobao, did you target the wrong person?" Zhang Xiaobao chuckled and replied, "If she is not like this, then it is possible that we are targeting the wrong person. She is too regular, so it is not normal. Cuckoo, are you familiar with her?" "Yes." When Wang Wan heard Zhang Xiaobao's question, she nodded and said, "Order, send someone to watch that tree. At night, secretly go and take a look, but do not make any noise. Also, keep an eye on the surrounding houses." Chapter 1049. There's someone on the tree? Li Longji raised his head and looked at the canopy of a cabin. It seemed like there was someone on the canopy as well. The result gave him quite a fright. It wasn't that there were people up there, but that there were many people. The cabin he was in was the 3rd floor. The ship had a total of 4 floors. Above the 4th floor was a small attic. Just like Xiao Bei's ship, Xiao Bei always liked to go into the attic and climb up the stairs in the attic to get a pile of snacks. She would learn from adults to enjoy the scenery and have fun. There were at least 6 openings in the ceiling of the 3rd floor. There was a person peeking out from each of the openings. Looking at their posture, it seemed like they could jump down at any time. Li Longji glanced at the 6 people and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, "Is there need to be so strict?" Looking at the situation, there really is someone on the tree. It's good that it's strict. I don't want to die from an assassination. I've always been afraid of death. There are many people who want to kill me. When Cuckoo and I were in Zhuangzi, what we liked to do the most was to dig tunnels, build walls, and use visual errors to create dark rooms. There was also, Zhang Xiaobao paused for a moment and picked up a dried fruit from the table. He shook his hand and threw it out. It hit a wooden pillar in the middle of the cabin and said, "Come out and meet me." With a creak, a door suddenly appeared on the pillar. It was pushed open from the inside, and 2 people walked out, one in front and one behind. Li Longji stood up and stretched out his hand to push the 2 people apart. He peeked his head in to take a closer look and said, "Narrow, so narrow. When I am at night, won't I be very safe?" "Isn't that right, Xiaobao?" "Your Majesty, look carefully. These two people are under the control of my adoptive father. When you are at night, you will not be affected at all. Just like in the palace, the skylight will be closed at night," Zhang Xiaobao explained to Li Longji. Only then did Li Longji set his gaze on the two people who had come out. With just one look, he knew that Zhang Xiaobao was right. He asked the two people, "Why can't I see you?" Replying, "To your Majesty, there are rope ladders on the pillars that lead upwards. They rotate every hour to ensure a high degree of concentration," a young eunuch replied. Li Longji entered the space between the pillars, stood up, and said to the two eunuchs, "Thank you for your hard work." The two of them shook their heads vigorously in fear and trepidation. For a moment, they couldn't say anything. It was the person who spoke first who was a little braver. He said in a trembling voice, "Your Majesty, this is what we should do. If we were not taken in by the palace, we would definitely be looked down upon by others outside." The other eunuch also nodded vigorously. Li Longji patted the eunuch's shoulder and said, "When medical technology becomes more advanced in the future, perhaps people with the same illness as you won't need to enter the palace. At that time, the harem will probably be filled with palace maids." As Li Longji spoke, he glanced at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. His meaning was clear. He knew that the new eunuchs in the palace were all people who were born with defects. There were big ones and small ones. The big ones were discovered later, and the small ones were taken in when they were young. Ever since Xiaobao and Cuckoo became the registrar and deputy county magistrate, they began to oppose castrating normal people. They were willing to spend a lot of manpower and resources to find people with congenital defects all over the Great Tang. Based on their character, they would be taken into the palace and given a fixed amount of money every month to their families. The old people were all from before, and they were also treated very well. Just the daily necessities for them, and the palace maids cost the Zhang family and Wang family no less than 3,000 strings of cash every month. Thus, the palace maids and eunuchs in the palace treated the Zhang family and Wang family exceptionally well, not only because of their status and ability, but also because the eunuchs were very grateful to be able to escape the cold eyes of others. Perhaps they don't need to work as palace maids for their entire lives. After working for a few years, they might be able to play a certain role elsewhere. For example, they might be able to help manage a certain fund or manage a medical department. Their knowledge in the palace would be far greater than those outside. In the harem, we shouldn't just teach the palace maids the basics and rules. We should also teach them more knowledge in other fields. The number of palace maids in the palace should be doubled. Zhang Xiaobao followed Li Longji's words and explained the basics. Li Longji was perplexed. Since they don't need to work as palace maids for their entire lives, that means that you, Xiaobao, don't like ordering servants around. Why do you want to increase the number of palace maids? Who says that I don't like it? The purpose of doubling the number of palace maids is to reduce their working time by half. The remaining time can be used to study. When have you ever seen the inner court maids working for 8 hours in a row? Unless it's an emergency, the time they spend working adds up to 6 hours a day. Even if they want to work, I won't allow them to do so as to reduce their efficiency. The extra time for them to study is to raise their abilities. The time for them to play is to allow them to relax and maintain their optimal condition. The prerequisite is that they don't leave the main household. Otherwise, all of the talents they nurture will end up running to someone else. Zhang Xiaobao explained his intentions to Li Longji. Wang Wan added, "If it isn't the inner court, a normal wage for a craftsman is 600 copper coins a month. If someone were to bribe them with money, it would be a huge loss for the original family. That's because the wages they pay are low, but the cost of nurturing them is several times higher." "I understand. You want my harem to help the entire Great Tang nurture female management talents." "That's right. No matter where they end up, they'll still be working for the great Tang. I won't compensate you for that. Tomorrow morning, I'll issue a decree to start a new class in the harem. Li Longji readily accepted the suggestion. He didn't mind hiring more palace maids. His wealth wasn't much lower than the national treasuries, so he could afford to hire twice as many palace maids. Besides, the Zhang clan and Wang clan would have to fork out more money as well. After saying this, Li Longji suddenly recalled what he had just said and asked, Xiaobao Cuckoo, did the two of you say that the old woman was speaking to the people in the tree? Zhang Xiaobao glanced at Li Longji with a look that said, My Zhuangzi's thick tree is also hollow in the middle. There's an underground tunnel that connects to other places, so the tree won't die if it's hollow in the middle. In truth, their spy system isn't perfect. If it were me, I wouldn't speak while leaning against the tree. I would throw stones into the river, and the person who receives the signal would hide the net under the water. Then they would compare the number of stones in the net. In fact, they could even go to a special place to buy things when they're strolling in the market every day. Then they could arrange the distance, and not the knot according to different methods. To think that it's that terrifying, Li Longji exclaimed in shock. However, Zhang Xiaobao shook his head and said, This isn't the scariest method of secrecy. The scariest part is that the higher-ups are only in contact with her. In other words, she doesn't know who the other party is, nor does she know when the other party will appear. According to the method I mentioned earlier, as long as we keep an eye on her and know her daily routine, we'll be able to find out who's in contact with her. The scariest method is cuckoo. The scariest method is that when she goes out to sell things, we'll know the way she walks, the way she arranges the goods, the order and angle of the goods, and even the quantity and price of the goods. She's able to pass information to others. The people who buy things and look at things change every day. It's impossible for us to keep an eye on all the people who pass by her stall. The only way is to capture her and torture her to get a full grasp of everything she knows. However, she doesn't know who her higher-ups are. When we torture her and waste more time than the time she's supposed to contact the higher-ups, the other party will cut her off. Even if we force her to use the same method to release information, we won't be able to catch her higher-ups. After hearing Zhang Xiaobao's hint, Wang Wan introduced another method of transmitting information to Li Longji. Li Longji was dumbfounded. In his opinion, the most suitable method of transmitting information was secret writing or transmitting information through telegrams that didn't seem to be relevant. However, he didn't expect that under the situation of a single line of communication, there were many other methods that seemed to be the most common and accurate method of transmitting information. This kind of spy is not easy to train, right? Li Longji finally found the problem. There were methods to use, but it was hard to find talented people. Yes, it's not easy to train them. At the same time, there's a high chance that they'll be discovered. Using the exhaustive method and the elimination method, we can still obtain useful information with a bit of effort. The process is a battle of wits and courage. Your Majesty, Cuckoo, and I still have other matters to attend to, so we'll take our leave for now. You don't have to think too much about it. Leave the dark side to me and Cuckoo. Zhang Xiaobao had to go back to work. Just as he said, he and Wang Wan were both from this kind of background. Back then, he and Wang Wan's department were very happy to fight, and he always had the upper hand. It wasn't that the people in Wang Wan's department weren't good enough, but that there were always more loopholes in the government's functions. This was the proverb that said, those who were loyal to justice were the butchers, while those who were ruthless were the scholars. Of course, the most important thing was that the meteor squad of the Special Second Department couldn't possibly keep an eye on Zhang Xiaobao. He was just a swindler, and he had never done anything that directly harmed the people of the country. Unless the leader had nothing better to do and sent all the members of the meteor squad to specifically target Zhang Xiaobao, then he could only restrain himself, and restrain himself even more. He would hide far away and never show himself. But if that was the case, he wouldn't know what to do. Was it a confrontation? In a risky situation, to let the meteor squad shine, or to fail and be caught, no matter which one it wasn't the result he wanted. Because he felt that the meteor squad shouldn't shine because of him. He couldn't do it. Zhang Xiaobao seemed to be reminiscing and hypothesizing. His emotions were fluctuating like Weiwei's, and he seemed a little more melancholy. "What are you thinking about?" Wang Wan nudged Zhang Xiaobao with her arm and asked. "Nothing, I was thinking about the past and the meteor squad. Perhaps one day, when the meteor squad streaked across the night sky, I made a wish that I could find a wife that I was most satisfied with. I was so kind that I moved the heavens, moved the earth, moved the wind, and moved the snow and rain. And then I had you by my side." As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he reached out his arm to hug Wang Wan. Wang Wan nimbly avoided him, ran 10 steps, and turned back. "Sappy, I like that kind of iron. You have to change in the future. Iron is usually accompanied by sadness. Sappy is the happiness that everyone wants to have. All right, according to the Sappy arrangement, I should chase after you. You should slow down and run in front. Little goat, don't run. Brother Wolf is coming." Zhang Xiaobao opened his arms and chased after Wang Wan. Chapter 1050. Young Master, here's your steak, please. At noon, Hu Liang once again sat in the dining hall. The difference was that there was no one to serve him food. He had to go to the window to get it, just like everyone else. This was because Xiao Bei and the others also served their own plates. There were only 4 special people: the 2 matriarchs who were pregnant, and Pan Er and her sister. Hu Liang ordered the same things as Xiao Bei: a steak, a foie gras, a caviar, a glass of wine, and a plate of fruit and vegetable salad. After Hu Liang found out what Xiao Bei had chosen, he was very curious. He had been to Blue Sea Silver Sand Restaurant, Between the Clouds and the Water, and Sea Cloud Garden, which had fewer chain stores. Although he hadn't tasted every dish, he had at least seen most of them from the menu. However, he didn't know what Xiao Bei had ordered. Out of curiosity, he learned from Xiao Bei that the steak was not fully cooked, at most 90%. The person who Liang asked told him that Xiaobao didn't allow his younger siblings to eat steak that was too fresh for fear of being unable to bear the smell of blood. Thus, Hu Liang thought that he could do it. So he ordered a medium-rare one. When Xiao Bei saw the meat on his plate, he winked at the inner courtyard that was guiding him. He had a happy expression on his face, and the inner courtyard returned a smile. "I'll see if he can eat it. Don't blame me if it's hot, although Big Brother never said that we can't eat it, because it's too bloody." Xiao Bei looked at Hu Liang's table like a thief and said to his brother and sister at the same table, "Yes, Big Brother doesn't let us eat it because he's afraid we'll burn ourselves. If we eat slowly, it won't taste good when it's cold. Otherwise, with our ability to eat raw seafood, why would we be afraid of a little bit of meat? Besides, steak isn't fishy." Xiao Yuan forked a fish and put on his plate. He slowly cut it and talked to Xiao Bei. He didn't order a salad and wasn't used to the taste. Unless it was a special situation, he could bear to eat a few mouthfuls. How could Hu Liang know the reason behind this? He unskillfully cut off a piece of meat that looked red. Just as he stabbed it with a knife and brought it to his mouth, he suddenly leaned back and kept sucking in cold air. His voice was muffled as he muttered, "It's blistering. What the hell is this?" Using a knife and fork, it's something that our ancestors didn't use for many years. Taking it out again, it's so tiring to eat something. "Young Master, it's not a big deal to use a knife and fork. There's also the curry rice that can be grasped with your hands." Young Master Xiao Bao and Miss Cuckoo have taught Miss Xiao Bei and the others quite a few ways to eat. They said that they don't expect them to eat it every day, but they should at least understand it. For example, eating grassland barbecued meat with 2 knives and a single knife, or eating crabs with 8 pieces of meat. The people at the same table had ordered a bowl of shaved noodles and were slurping down their food. When they heard Hu Liang's mumbling, they stopped what they were doing and said to him. Hu Liang nodded helplessly and began to blow on the meat in front of him. Wei Wei poked her head out and looked at Xiao Bei's table. She had to admit that their education was different from others. Xiao Bei and the others ate very skillfully and quickly. They gave off a very elegant and magical feeling. Looking down at the foie gras on the plate, she asked the person sitting opposite her in confusion, "Why don't you use big foie gras? I know a way to make the liver of poultry bigger." It's nothing more than force feeding. If you force feed it with distiller's grains, it will grow bigger. Our family doesn't allow that. Feed that harms the liver is absolutely forbidden to be fed to poultry and livestock. At the same time, we can't let poultry eat too much. The person in the inner courtyard opposite, Hu Liang, looked at Hu Liang with disdain. After he finished speaking, he lowered his head and continued to work hard on the food. Hu Liang was silent. He imitated Xiao Bei and the others and ate bit by bit. However, his mood became complicated. He knew a lot about the Zhang family and the Wang family. He knew that Zhang Xiaobao had the best grasp of seasonings and always cooked for his family. However, he didn't use too many seasonings. If he could bring out the original taste of the ingredients, he would do so directly. If it didn't suit the taste, he would only add a little salt. Now, it was said that his culinary skills had reached the point of perfection, and his requirements for food were higher. However, such a person actually didn't allow his family to specially feed special poultry. This meant that deliberately feeding poultry was not good for the human body. Thinking of this, Hu Liang swallowed the food in his mouth with wine. He imitated Xiao Bei and wiped his mouth with a napkin in front of his chest. He asked the person in the inner courtyard opposite him who was putting meat sauce into the shaved noodles. Your family eats good food, but after several generations of breeding poultry that produce high production of eggs and meat, don't you think it's unfair to the people of the world? Huh? Unfair? The person in the inner courtyard was surprised. Yes, you can't find ordinary food in your family. Even a bowl of soy milk or a bowl of porridge must be carefully selected. You say that you are for the people of the Tang Empire, but you are creating a gap in their lives. Where is your morality? Hu Liang's voice was slightly louder, with a hint of criticism. The person in the inner courtyard scooped another spoonful of meat sauce. He was not afraid of the saltiness, and directly put it in his mouth, swallowed it, and drank a mouthful of noodle soup. He narrowed his eyes comfortably and said to Hu Liang, "If my family doesn't eat like this, can the people eat it? Now is not the time to pursue quality, but quantity, so that the people can eat meat as much as possible. Of course, the young master and young lady are not allowed to use other methods to breed livestock and poultry. They are only specially bred. When the cultivation technology of the Tang Empire is better and the medical technology is more perfect, the quality of the people's lives will gradually improve. My master is not able to reach the sky in one step, so he can only come up with this plan. Besides, different varieties don't mean that the food is harmful to people. Instead of worrying about the quality of the food, it's better to think about whether they can eat it first. Then, have you considered the people of other countries? We are all people in the world, so why don't you sell your good things at a cheaper price? All you sell are luxury goods." Hu Liang continued to ask. "Forget it. You said that they are the people of other countries. What does it have to do with the Tang Empire? If the people of other countries are living a good or bad life, they can go to their emperor. If they want to live a good life, it's simple. Get rid of their emperor and acknowledge that there is only one Tang Empire. You are kind. According to your words, all the people in the world are like this. Every blade of grass and every tree has a root of wisdom. Don't hurt them. In the future, you can starve and don't even breathe. Otherwise, you will kill the creatures in the air." After the person in the inner courtyard finished speaking, he did not say anything else and scooped another spoonful of meat sauce to eat. Hu Liang saw that he was not done eating the meat sauce, so he used a knife to put some into his mouth. He smacked his lips and said, "It's not too salty. What meat?" "The leftover meat from last night. It's cooked and made into meat sauce. This time, the cooked meat is the most fragrant. Don't worry and eat it. The meat that is stained with other people's saliva is all fed to the animals." Another person in the inner courtyard said. "Oh." Hu Liang was relieved and muttered, "If everyone can eat, wear warm clothes, and live in a house that doesn't leak rain, how can there be wars in the world? If that's really the case, some people will have other ideas. Let's eat. We're about to reach Hangzhou. You can see your brothers. 5 people. If you say 5, then it's 5. If there are 10, then kill 5. The inner court official added one more sentence. Hu Liang suddenly lost his appetite. Cold sweat kept coming out of his pores. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end, he did not say anything. The 7 people that Hu Liang was thinking about were eating at the moment. They were caught last night. Until now, no one had brought them food. In front of each of them was a tail of bean cakes and a bowl of rice wine. They could not find anything else. The nutrition contained in a tail of bean cakes was enough for them to last for a whole day. A bowl of rice wine could not only replenish their water, but also help them to decompose their fat. For them, this treatment was already not bad. Otherwise, they would only be given a cup of white wine each. After they drank it, it would not be a problem for them to survive for a day. Then they would be fed half a bowl of water. This way, they could live for at least half a month. But the consequence was that they would become weak and want to sleep all day. Even if they were not tied with ropes, they could not run away. Now, the treatment given to them was good. Their feet were tied together by iron chains. If one person wanted to move, he could not be far away from others. Seeing that the food was brought in, the 7 people in the cabin raised their heads almost at the same time. They looked at the person who came and put the food on the ground with hatred and turned to leave. "Big brother, do you know him?" Lao Wu, who was leaning against the cabin wall, glanced at the food and asked. The person who was called Big Brother shook his head. He looked at the food and sighed. He did not even want to talk. He stuck out his tongue and licked his sweet lips, but did not eat. It's troublesome if you don't know him. You can't guess which gang he is from. Even if you want to talk to him, you can't find anything to talk about. Lao Wu leaned forward. After being pulled by the iron chains on the other person's feet, he put his nose to the bowl and sniffed. Good wine, so fragrant. It's a pity that there are only bean cakes. It would be good if there were such a big piece of smoked meat. The smoked meat of the Zhang family and Wang family is naturally delicious. It's just that we don't have that luck. It's good enough that we have bean cakes and rice wine. Otherwise, what will you do if we starve for 2 more days? Lao San's feet were the closest to Lao Wu. Being pulled by the other person, he was very uncomfortable. He also leaned forward and said. Lao Wu stopped sniffing and turned his head. Using the weak light shining in from above the cabin, he carefully looked around and asked puzzledly, "I've looked at this place more than 10 times. How do you know it's the Zhang family and Wang family? Other than them, who would come to catch us? Besides, we're in the cabin now. When the ventilation hole is blocked, I can't hear any other sound. This only proves that the cabin wall is thick and they used other methods. Now, listen carefully. Do you hear the sound of water? I just don't know if Lao Ba is still alive. If he is, where is he? AI, the intelligence personnel of the Zhang family and Wang family, are too good. I'm waiting for them." Lao San pulled the iron chains and let Lao Si beside him think. He reached out and took a piece of bean cake. He carefully touched it and said to Lao Wu. Lao Wu lowered his head and thought for a while. He finally understood and said, "That guy also said that he had relatives in the palace who got chili and cooked meat for us to eat. It turns out that he put medicine in the food. That medicine has a taste, so he put it in the spicy and numbing food so that we can't taste it. When we fall, he will tie us up on the boat. Damn innkeeper, don't let me out. Otherwise, he won't be able to live another day. I'm so angry." You still want to go out? Don't shout so loudly. If someone hears you, they will block the ventilation hole. You will be stuffy and sleepy. If you are not careful, you will suffocate to death in the cabin. If you are hungry, eat 1 bite and chew slowly. Hide the rest. We don't know when the next food will be delivered. You like to drink, but you are only allowed to take a small sip. Use it like water. See if they will kill you or keep you alive. Maybe it won't be long before they come in to ask. Save your strength for the punishment. Lao San, who was not in the mood to talk just now, finally opened his mouth. He had a lot of things to think about. He looked up at the ventilation hole and shook his head helplessly. Lao Wu, who had just opened his mouth to eat the bean cake, closed it after hearing Lao San's words. He carefully stuffed the bean cake between his teeth and took a bite. He said, "It smells so good. It's so king fragrant. I've never eaten such delicious bean biscuits since I was young. Do they want to starve us? If they really want to do that, why would they send us food? They must want to scare us so that they can get useful information from us. Humph, it's not that I don't want to say it, but I don't know much. Since they can catch us, they must know who we sent the telegram to. Do they think we know more than the people on the other side?" Lao Wu's words made him seem smarter. He was not as stupid as before. Unfortunately, he was smart too late. If he was this smart before he was caught, he might be able to escape. "Big brother, what do we do now? The bowl that sent us the wine is made of wood. It will take a long time to grind a rope, let alone break the iron chain with it." A slightly feminine voice sounded. It was Lao Chi, who was leaning against the wall of the cabin next to Lao San. He was also listless, but he did not take anything to eat. As the leader, he didn't answer immediately. Instead, he closed his eyes and leaned against the wall. After a long time had passed, he said, "If it were me, I would have a few methods. One is to make us beg for death so that we can vent the hatred in our hearts. After all, our appearance has caused quite a bit of disturbance to them. It would be too easy for us to die quickly. They would torture us for at least 10 days to half a month, or make us unable to bear it and commit suicide. Then do we commit suicide?" Lao Wu became stupid again. "Live. As long as there is a chance, you have to live. If you die, you have nothing left. You can't see the sun tomorrow, you can't eat delicious food, and you can't even think about your wine." The big brother glared at the fifth brother and said. The fifth brother didn't see the look in the big brother's eyes. It was too dark in the cabin. He laughed and said, "Yes, I'm alive. If I run out, I can still continue to drink. Hee, this is the only thing I like to do. I can't die unless someone agrees to set up a memorial tablet for me and give me a jar of wine tomorrow." Lao Wu had already taken a sip of the wine. He had a very high opinion of this wine. Lao San shook his head again and said, "In addition to torturing us, they can also kill us directly to scare others and let our people know how powerful the Zhang family and the Wang family are. But I don't think they will do that. The most likely scenario is to raise us like we are now. They won't let us eat until we are full and have strength, but they also won't let us die. When the time is right, they will change us into new clothes and put us, who have no strength, on the deck in a conspicuous place for our people to see. Our people will see us and think that we can sit comfortably on the chairs outside because we betrayed them in exchange. Our people will adjust when they are afraid. This will make it easy for them to expose themselves. But they probably don't know that no matter how our people see us, they won't be worried. Because we have only one way to communicate with our superiors. At the same time, we don't know who is behind this." Yes, Lao San is right. "Then, that means even if I drink all the wine, they won't watch me die. Can I continue to drink?" Lao Wu, who loved to drink, had been staring at the wine bowl since just now. Even though there was very little light coming in from the vent hole, he couldn't see clearly. "Drink, drink, you only know how to drink. One day, you will die from drinking." Lao San reprimanded Lao Wu loudly. "I'm willing to die from drinking. It would be best if they throw me into the wine vat and drown me. I'll be a drunkard for once. When I'm down there, the king of hell will know that I have a good tolerance for alcohol. Maybe he won't let me go into the frying pan and will make me drink with him." Lao Wu muttered in a low voice. Then he said, "It's good to die. It'll be sullen. The superiors don't let us know anything and make us work for them. Isn't it just giving us money? If we are caught, they won't come to save us." While the 7 people who were caught were feeling uncomfortable, The people who were not caught were also feeling uncomfortable. In a small river next to a village in Jiangzhou, there was a person fishing. Although the river was not big, the current was not slow. When the fishing line was inserted into the water, it was first slanted in a straight line, but then it was bent by the current. Beside the fishermen were large and small lead pendants, as well as earthworms dug out from the soil. The wind was blowing in Weiwei, and the afternoon sun was very warm. However, the fisherman's expression was somewhat anxious. There was no trace of leisure. Even so, he did not move at all. He stood by the river like a statue. He stayed there for half an hour, and the hook that was thrown into the water never came up. Another quarter of an hour passed, and the fisherman's expression became more anxious. He held the fishing rod with one hand and used the other hand to take out a piece of bread from the pocket beside him. He slowly brought it to his mouth. Just as he was about to bite it, the fishing rod suddenly moved. The movement was very large, and then it became calm again. After about 5 breaths, it moved again. After 3 times, it stopped moving. The fisherman immediately lost the mood to eat. He lowered his head and looked around. When he saw that there was no one around, he suddenly pulled the fishing rod. The pendant that he had put down earlier flew out of the water with a swishing sound. There was a twisting fish on the pendant. The fisherman reached out and caught the fish as fast as he could. He removed the hook, put away the fishing rod, and threw the fish into the bamboo basket. He did not care whether there were other bigger fish in the river and turned around to leave. After walking for about 2 li, several courtyards appeared in front of him. In front of the courtyards, there was a special house. The door was wide open, and there was an old woman in her 50s sitting at the door. She was picking vegetables, presumably waiting for dinner. When the old woman saw the fisherman, her mouth, which had lost several teeth, cracked open, revealing a smile that was not a smile. She asked, "Uncle, did you catch a big fish today?" "Sister-in-law, I caught one. Look, it's 3 caddies of grass carp. When we go back home, we can make a good dish to go with wine. Help me take a look. We don't have any salt at home, so we can pack some more." The fisherman took the fish out of the bamboo basket. At this time, the fish was not completely dead. It occasionally struggled and moved a few times. Its mouth also opened and closed, as if it wanted to breathe. The old woman put down what she was doing and took the fish. She said, "I've packed it for you. You can take it back and cook it directly. You can ask Xiaojiu for the salt yourself. It's the same price as last time." As she spoke, the old woman went into the house. The fisherman shouted to a pile of firewood next to him, "Xiaojiu, pack some salt for me. Give me 3 caddies of salt first. You only know how to set that trap of yours all day. Who has nothing better to do than to chop up your firewood?" Come. People buy salt by caddies, but you buy money every time. You know that my family's small scale is not accurate, so you deliberately take advantage of me. According to your method of buying, you can buy 17 taels of salt for 1 caddy of salt. You've made a profit. Next time, I want a fish. You can't just catch one every day. When you've exhausted your family's food, let's see what you'll eat in the future. As soon as the fisherman finished speaking, a young man came out from a very obvious door-like place in the firewood pile. He didn't look like he was in his 20s, but at most 16 or 17. He complained as he ran in. When he entered the door, he was slapped on the head by the fisherman. He laughed and didn't get angry. After a while, the young man gave a small bag of salt to the fisherman. At the same time, he said, "Okay, my mother has already packed the fish. You go in and get it. In the future, don't say that my traps are bad. My traps are connected to a tunnel. Last time, a stray cat fell in. When I went over, I just happened to see it. Otherwise, I could have caught it and raised it to catch mice for my family. You can't even trap a cat, and you still have the face to say that your traps are good? I didn't see it. Continue with your tunnels and traps. Fish, wait until I'm in a good mood." The fisherman slapped the young man's head again, turned around, and walked back. The young man rubbed the place where he was slapped and said discontentedly, "You always have a deadpan face." I don't see you in a good mood. I've said it more than 10 times, but I haven't seen a single fish for me." When the fisherman came out of the house with the fish, the young man had already disappeared. Only the soft firewood hanging down from the firewood danced in the wind, making a rustling sound. At this time, on a small hill about 1.5 miles away from the store, 2 figures appeared. They looked at each other and nodded at the same time. One of them said, "It seems that the opponent is very difficult to deal with. He actually took so many precautions. If it weren't for the 2 of us being lucky and running into a turtle in the water to help, we really wouldn't have been able to guess how the opponent passed on the information." The other person nodded in agreement and said, "That's right. We thought that the middle of the tree was hollow, and that the person they contacted was hiding in the tree. Then, they dug a tunnel that led to the surrounding houses. In the end, after monitoring the surrounding houses, we didn't find anything. If the turtle didn't bite the person hiding in the water, we definitely would have delayed the main house's business. The tree is indeed hollow in the middle, but it's not a tunnel that leads directly to the other houses. Instead, there's a hole for people to hide in. Is it a hole? It looks like it, like an ant's nest." The person who spoke earlier sighed and stared at the firewood without relaxing. He was now very impressed with the other party. There was a tunnel beside the tree that led to an underground cave that was relatively higher than the river. It was all dug out manually. At first, he and his partner weren't clear, when a person's head suddenly popped out of the river and climbed ashore in a sorry state. He used a stone to smash the neck of a turtle that was biting on his leg. Only then did he and his partner determine the general situation. Then, they waited for another day. When the mentally ill old woman who liked to lean against the tree and mumble to herself left, he and his partner waited for a while more before jumping into the water. Only then did they finally drill into the hole and confirm their initial judgment. As for the person who was bitten by the turtle, the 2 of them guessed where he would go. Yes, it was the person who fished in the lower reaches of the river every day. The person hiding in the tree should have obtained the information, written it down, and stuffed it into the stomach of a fish. Then, with a knotted bamboo, he groped in the river and placed the fish on the hook of the angler. Then, the angler took the fish to the store and cleaned it up. As for who the information was passed to, it was still unclear. Perhaps the other party had confused the angler and the information was still with the angler, or perhaps the old woman had taken it away and transferred it through other means. But now, it seemed most likely that the young man was the culprit. After observing for 2 days, he found that every day he would pack salt for the angler and then enter the firewood pile again. It would be better if he observed for a few more days, but the main family didn't have much time to waste. He could only take the risk. Thinking like this, the person who spoke earlier said to the other person, "Fong, follow me." "Okay, you go first." "I'll follow." The person called Fong nodded and followed the first person. He took out his pistol and ran toward the firewood pile. In the end, when the 2 people were about 10 meters away from the firewood pile, the old woman who had been sitting at the entrance of the store first came out. She happened to see the 2 people running toward the firewood pile and immediately shouted, "Who are you? Are you going to steal my firewood? Someone, there's a thief. He's going to steal the firewood." When she shouted, the 2 people who were running almost exploded in anger. Who wouldn't push a cart to steal firewood? How much firewood could they steal with so much firewood? Carrying it would be tiring. At the same time, the 2 people also realized that there was something wrong with the firewood pile. Moreover, the old woman must be related to the other party. They sped up and reached the door-like place in a few steps. At the same time, they raised their guns and shot inside. After a few consecutive gunshots, they raised their legs and kicked open the wooden planks, blocking the way. At this time, they didn't care if they had made a mistake. They killed a normal young man. If they really made a mistake, there was no other way. They could only ask the main family for help. When the 2 people entered, the flashlights were turned on at the same time, illuminating the place in front of them. When they saw this place, The two people heaved a sigh of relief. They didn't hit anyone just now. Moreover, the firewood pile was relatively spacious, about 3 to 4 square meters. This 3 to 4 square meters was empty at this time. Let alone a person. There wasn't even a bug. The ground was flat. Where are they? The person called Feng asked in surprise. Don't worry, they should be down there. Use the binoculars to look at their mouths. Didn't they say that the young man liked to set traps and dig tunnels? Then it must be true. They actually dared to say it. Let's go down and take a look. The person called you held his gun vigilantly and signaled Feng to check the ground. Feng took small steps and suddenly stopped. He said, "Here, wooden planks ready." When the two people carefully squatted down and opened the wooden planks, the old woman outside was still shouting. Moreover, there were more than 6 people's footsteps. In addition to the sound of running, there were also inquiring shouts. It really looked like someone was stealing firewood and the neighbors were helping each other. I can see that the people in the several courtyards in this place are probably all together. How amazing! How did they get bribed? And who bought them? Feng said as he shone the flashlight down. You looked down and saw that there was a hole that was neither big nor small. If 2 people crawled into the hole together, they would definitely squeeze into the hole. One person would still have some space to spare. Seeing this situation, you gritted his teeth and said, "I'll go first. You stay behind. If you find something wrong, remember to go back alive and call more people to investigate." Understood. If something happens to you, I'll kill everyone here first. No, leave one alive. Feng turned around and pointed his gun at the entrance, ready to shoot at any time. Okay. Rain shouted a word and jumped down. After a while, Feng, who was waiting at the top, listened carefully, but he didn't hear anything else. Even the footsteps outside disappeared. He couldn't help but shout anxiously into the cave. Rain. It's here. It's very far, about 30 meters away. There are actually 6 forks below. Don't move, I'll find a way to get out. Damn it, isn't this the situation below our village? Others have also learned it. Yu's voice reverberated from below. After hearing it, Feng didn't continue to stay there. Instead, he walked out with his gun. That's him. There's another person who wants to steal my firewood. As soon as he appeared, Feng heard the old lady's voice. He looked up and saw 9 people standing in front of him, including the old lady. Except for the old lady, the others were holding various kinds of farming tools. There were pickaxes, hoes, and forks for forking manure. They were all waiting for him, and all of them looked angry. Feng shook the gun in his hand and said, "I guess you all know me, right? Seeing this thing, you can guess my identity, right? Yes, I'm the spy of the Zhang family and the Wang family in Sanshui County. I have a special right, that is, when I'm carrying out a mission, if I suspect that someone will threaten me, I can shoot him directly without taking any responsibility. Now I suspect that you are involved in an illegal organization that endangers the safety of the Tang Empire. I order you to put down your weapons, put your hands on your head, and lie down. If anyone dares to disobey, I'll shoot immediately. Lie down." With a puff, the 9 people, including the old lady, all lay down face down, and the weapons in their hands were all thrown away. Feng didn't relax his vigilance because he knew that some people didn't care about their own lives, just like him. At the critical moment, they could do anything. Even an old man or a young child could become an assassin. Because he didn't move forward, he stayed beside the firewood pile. His eyes glanced back and forth between the door of the firewood pile and the 9 people. Just now, you had said that there were 6 forks below. It was very likely that the other party would come from the other forks, then suddenly run out of the firewood pile and launch an attack. The Zhang family and the Wang family in Sanshui County are unreasonable. They bully ordinary people and let people point guns at us. I don't want to live anymore. The old lady, who was lying there, turned her head, looked at Feng, and said in a voice that was neither high nor low. With a bang, the bullet hit the soil beside the old lady, splashing some dust. Then came Feng's voice, "If you speak again, I'll kill you." You only have one life. If you die, you will have nothing. There's no harm in telling you. I still have one bullet in my gun. Who wants to go first? Hearing the old lady's words, the three people who wanted to get up stopped at this moment. This was also Fang's purpose. He understood what the old lady meant. She wanted them to fight to the death. I'm out. I'm finally out. Yu's voice came at this time. Feng looked over and found that you walked out of the door of another house. He asked, "What's the arrangement inside?" I came out from under their stove. There was still a fire there. Look at my hair. The topmost part has been burnt. I didn't see the person, so he probably ran away from here. This is going to be troublesome. Let's ask them. Who is the previous owner? Rain held a gun in one hand and stroked her hair with the other. She walked over and stood beside Feng. Feng nodded and asked the 9 people lying on the ground. Tell me, who is the master and how do we usually contact each other? Where did that brat run off to? I don't know what you're talking about. We're just normal people. What's the big deal? When I get my goods, it's from, shut up. From now on, you're not allowed to make a sound. Are you trying to trick a fool? Dutiful family? Which dutiful family would build an underground tunnel that extended in all directions? You, yes, it's you. Tell me, who's the previous owner? Feng shouted at the old lady. Then he set his eyes on a person whose body was trembling like Weiwei. This person would probably be able to find a breakthrough and would only tremble because he was afraid. Who would have thought that after he finished asking, the trembling man kept shaking his head and then opened his mouth and started screaming. Mute. I don't believe this. You go and find them. I'll watch them. How dare they pretend in front of me? They must be tired of living. Feng said with a frown. You took a deep breath and said, okay, be careful. Then she ran back the way she came. When you ran out of sight, the old lady who was lying on the ground suddenly jumped up and rushed toward Feng. At the same time, she shouted, fight with him. He's a fake. He only has one bullet. Bang. The old lady fell down. Feng narrowed his eyes and said to the 4 people who stood up and then stopped, guess, do I still have bullets? You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.